here.
He's already on vacation. I can't believe you beat me.
Yeah, he didn't know I was on a vacation.
You were instructed.
I was.
We need to share.
Yeah.
We should have something here.
Yeah. The recording.
All right, Tim, we're live.
Okay. I'd like to call to order meeting of the Summers Board of Selectmen, April 7th, 2022. And first thing on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. We have Selectman Meyer on my right, Selectman Schmidt on my left. We have our Chief Financial Officer, Mike Marinaccio, along with Assistant Finance Director, Brian Wissinger. We have a whole audience full of people. I'm not sure I'm going to mention them all, but you'll hear from them as the meeting continues. So, any public comment this evening? Usually have a public comment period. We have none. We did have an executive session earlier this evening at 5:30, which is now completed. Presentations by the first selectman. A couple things I'd like to mention. One is that on March 29th, Summers, through our Department of Veterans Affairs, Director Dave McCaffrey and Assistant Director Sherry Marquis, hosted a Vietnam commemoration for the 50 years of the Vietnam War. This was initiated by a proclamation signed by President Trump, and it designated the 29th of March each year as a commemorative day for the Vietnam War. So we hosted it here in Summers. We had 50 pre-selected veterans that we chose that were interested in participating. We had members of their families and their spouses, significant others here. It was hosted by myself. We had our chief speaker was Commissioner of Veterans Affairs for the state, Tom Soddy, and it was quite an outstanding event. It was very well planned, organized. We had great turnout, a lot of energy in the room, very positive. And by the way, it's not the last one we're going to have, because Director McCaffrey has told me that there are going to be 5 more of these between now and Memorial Day 2025. So the next one will be in September of this year, followed by one in March next year. Certificates were handed out, personal certificates were handed out for each individual with their name printed on it by Lieutenant Governor Bysowitz, Commissioner Soddy, and the town of Summers. And so, looking forward to more of those in the future. Another thing I wanted to mention, on Monday of this week, I was able to participate in a sort of a fire training / experience for public officials, including elected officials like myself, state representatives, people running for office, news people, to familiarize themselves with the activities of the police, the fire department throughout the state. There must have been between 15 and 20 different fire departments participating in this. It was held at the Hartford Fire Training Center. Towns like Fairfield, Waterbury, East Hartford, West Hartford, Hamden, of course Summers, New London. It was very impressive. They must have had between 3 and 10 members from each department there, and then volunteers like myself, and there were only 10 of them, actually got to participate with the full bunker gear and do such, evolutions as, extraction from an automobile, cutting through the roof, of a building with a chainsaw, breaching a door, searching a burning building, for, victims, basically. I was, joined by Ray Stovall, who's a firefighter, EMT, with our local Summers Fire Department, Scott Mingwe, is it? Mingai?
Yeah.
Mingai, who's a firefighter, paramedic, and Jeremy Simmons, who's a firefighter, paramedic. And I must say, I, developed a tremendous respect for what these professionals do, and, it was indeed impressive, and, thank everyone for the opportunity, and I think it was good for all involved, so it was great. So next on the agenda, on the consent agenda, we have, boards and commission appointments. So we're following up on the Youth Services Bureau Advisory Board appointments. Do you wanna say anything? Sure, great, Allison Maynard, who's gonna be the chair, who's our Social Services Director here in Summers, and will be the chair of this, Youth Services Advisory Board. Allison.
So before you, you have the 8 individuals plus myself that are being, recommended to be appointed to our newly formed Youth Services Advisory Bureau. Youth Services Bureau Advisory Board. There's only one correction, and it was my mistake. Paula LaJoy should be the community member, and Renata Bowers should be the resident. So they are the co-owners of the Story Barn, but Paula lives in Ellington, and Renata lives here in Summers. So that was sent over incorrectly to you, which is why it was incorrect on there. But that one change, but everything else stays the same.
Okay.
So do we have a motion to, appoint these, 9 individuals to the Youth Services Bureau Advisory Board, with a term expiring on 12/22/2023.
Make the motion that we, appoint Brian Langan, Candace Bidwell, Colleen Meyer, Ed DePoe, Annetta Bowers, Craig Jones, Joe Radowitz, Paula LaJoy, and Allison Maynard to the Youth Services Bureau. And when does the term end?
12/22/23.
12/22/23, okay.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have an individual who wishes to be appointed to the, Zoning Commission as an alternate member, Doug Farrow, with a term expiring on 12/22/23. Doug is, his background is he's a Air Guard C-130 pilot instructor. He's been working with them for over 15 years, has got some very impressive experience, and, he has been involved with lots of activities around the country. So I think he would bring a lot to the board, a lot of common sense. Do I have a motion to appoint, Mr. Farrow as an alternate member of the Zoning Commission?
I'd be happy to make that motion to appoint Doug Farrow as an alternate member of the Zoning Commission. And to, begin on 12/22/21 for 12 months.
23.
23, sorry, I apologize.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes. Now we have an opportunity to add urgent agenda items.
I have 3 to add tonight.
Go ahead.
So I'd like to add a discussion of the municipal budget. Item 1. Item 2 would be reschedule the meeting, the next regular scheduled meeting for Thursday, April 21st. And the third item would be a recommended appointment to the.
Wait, the second one was rescheduling the meeting for April 21st?
Yeah, exactly.
That's our next,
Cancel and reschedule, yes.
It's our next scheduled meeting,
Exactly.
so.
Yep.
Okay, do we
So I
need,
just would add it as an item just to discuss.
okay,
And then,
Okay.
the third would be the appointment of a member of the Conservation Commission.
Sydney Flowers,
Yes.
great,
So I'd like to add those three items to tonight's agenda.
okay. Do we have a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes, aye. Okay. We'll start with discussion of municipal budget.
Okay, so, I had a chance, last night to watch the, Board of Finance meeting from Tuesday night. And, I mean, I guess I would say that I was kind of taken aback at the tone of the meeting and, some of the things that were said. And, you know, I mean, as a former member of the Board of Finance, I mean, I think that the collaboration between boards, I mean, the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, the Board of Education is something here that's valued in town, and that, you know, we've disagreed many times over things. However, you know, we've always remained civil and always, you know, found a path forward with common ground. And I just think that, you know, some of the comments made, some of the things like that were said to represent the Board of Selectmen, you know, were not my opinion. And, you know, I think in some ways maybe even crossed the line of, you know, being civil, which I think is, you know, not,
Give me an example.
I mean, some of the things that were said against the superintendent, I think some of the things that were said to the chairman of the finance board.
Against the superintendent, like what? I mean, I think the specifics are important here because
Yeah.
we're gonna discuss this.
Okay, I mean, you know, saying that he was, pressured, I mean, I think we heard then from the superintendent himself that he wasn't pressured, so I think to
Well, I
kind
think
of-
it was clear for people like myself who was at the meeting and for the public that might have watched prior meetings, that indeed, there was pressure placed on the superintendent to come back with more money, more of his budget funds to come out of ARPA.
Well, I mean, I think that, you know, we have an elected Board of Education, I think we have a sophisticated and intelligent superintendent, and I think if that's how they feel, they can express that themselves. I mean, I don't think that we should be expressing how they feel. And when I say we, it was not me. I mean, I don't think that any member of the Board of Selectmen should express how another board or another,
Well, I think this was an appearance that was pretty clear from what happened at prior meetings and what was requested by the chairman of the superintendent as to what he wanted to see. And he first asked to see what he could, and he was produced like about $134,000 of funds, none of which technically qualified. Then he was asked to come back with more money, and then he was asked a third time at another meeting to come back with even more money. So, this was not done on the individual initiative of the superintendent. It was done in response to, this is what I want, come back with it. That doesn't seem to me to be, that is clear to me to be pressure.
well, I think that the Board of Finance has the jurisdiction to, you know, determine what the budget is. I mean, we could propose a 6% increase, and if the Board of Finance thinks a 4% increase is appropriate, I mean, that's their jurisdiction by statute and by charter. So, I mean, I don't know that, I mean, we may disagree with them, I mean, we may feel that, you know, a reduction isn't justified, but at the end of the day, I mean, each board has their own authority, and I think that, you know, finding a path to common ground is more important than, you know, getting into almost to the point of name calling or,
There was no
you know,
no name calling.
It was, I mean, I got several phone calls the next day from members of the Board of Finance, from other people that were just taken aback by the things that were said and the conduct in the meeting. And, you know, I didn't really wanna form an opinion until I watched the meeting. I got to watch it late last night, and, you know, I can understand the concerns that they had as well. And I would just say that, you know, a lot of the opinions expressed were not my opinions. You know, I was not there at the meeting. You know, and I would just ask too that, you know, in the future, they're expressed as an individual opinion as opposed to a board's opinion.
Do you have any comments? Bob?
Yeah, I talked to the superintendent at length, and, he was extremely concerned because he told me that there was no truth to the message there, I think, that you were sending, that he was being, browbeaten or being forced to come up with these things, and he really didn't feel that that was the way it was, and, he was very concerned. I also talked to some people, well, they called me from the, also from the, you know, finance board, and they were also concerned that there was a lot of kind of like accusations being made, and I think what happened is, unfortunately, a tone was set, and people, the way they received it, the superintendent and members of the finance board, they received it, it was kind of almost a hostile tone. And, I just think that maybe that would be the next time we could work on, maybe just, instead of being so accusatory, just kind of explaining what our feelings were, and, because these people were very upset. That's, and they told me that personally. It's not like I, went out and sought, you know, this, and they were just very concerned about it. And then at the end of the meeting too, on Tuesday, several of them came up and wanted to know whether it was my opinion, you know, too, about a lot of these things. And I said, well, it certainly was not in my opinion that the superintendent was in cahoots with the, head of the finance board, or that he was being pressured into that.
What about the misuse of, American Rescue Plan Act funds with regards to the policy and intent of what those funds are supposed to be used for?
Oh, yeah, and I told I told these people, and I told the member of the finance board who I talked to today, that was the major concern, and I agreed with you on that. And I said that I hoped that, to make sure that any of these about $640,000 worth of, you know, things that were put on the table there Tuesday night for using the American Rescue Plan, that I wanted to make sure that those were legitimate. And that, I said, I am not going to be accepting responsibility for anything that you guys have approved that isn't legitimate. You know what I'm saying? It's not within the bounds of that. And I'm just saying that you need to make very clear that all those things that you are going to use the, ARPA money for is legal, and, that it's not gonna come back and haunt us. And that I do agree with you on, you know, and I'm glad you made that clear to them in that sense. But I just think it could have been delivered in a different way, that's all I'm saying.
Okay. Any further discussion on that, Adam?
I would just say that I think that it's kind of strong language to say that it's an illegal use of ARPA. I mean, I don't know that,
I said inappropriate, I didn't say illegal.
well, that's, I mean, I think
That's a big difference.
inappropriate is an opinion. I mean, I think
Well,
that.
that's exactly what it is.
But I mean, I think the way that it was worded, I mean, it almost came across like it's illegal.
I said inappropriate, is
You
the
know,
word I
it's
used.
gonna cause, that you're gonna
Not
have to
illegal.
refund the money, and,
I didn't
you know,
use,
it's,
well,
I mean, inappropriate, I think it's an opinion as far as what the priority is, but at the end of the day, I mean, the Board of Finance is the one with the jurisdiction to make the final decisions about the appropriations, including the ARPA money.
they weren't appropriations. They weren't appropriations.
Well, it was a reduction for the budget and then a subsequent appropriation. So they made a reduction to the budget and they made a subsequent appropriation.
And it was authorization to use ARPA funds, so was it an appropriation? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they made a reduction to the town budget and they made an appropriation of ARPA.
Yeah, it's true.
Yes, so, I mean, I heard the CFO speak, I mean, I heard the chairman speak, I mean, I think it's clear that we're complying with the legalities. I mean, I think we may need to make a motion, and Mike, you would know more, I think we do need to adopt a resolution, for the revenue waiver for the $10 million,
Yeah,
right?
well, we're gonna declare that when we go into the treasury portal and file our report by April 3rd.
But you need a motion from a governing bodies, right?
I don't believe we do.
I don't think you.
Cause I've seen other towns make those, so we should
Some
just.
of them have, but,
They're
yeah.
beyond any EU, they are beyond a non-entitlement unit,
Okay.
so.
Okay. But that's all, I mean, I think it just needs to be very, I mean, that, I saw nothing illegal as far as appropriations, I think maybe there's a disagreement. I mean, the more I've thought about it, I mean, using the ARPA funds in that way, give the benefit to all of our taxpayers, in reduced taxes. So I mean, as far as stimulus to the economy, you know, instead of a 2 mil increase or a 2.5 mil increase, we're
Okay.
gonna have a 0.9 mil
Right,
increase.
you're offsetting budgeted funds with other funds that,
They were not budgeted funds.
Right, that
They were
reduce,
proposed budgeted funds, so we reduced the proposed increase, we did
Right.
not cut the budget and then fund it with ARPA. It was a proposed increase, so it was adding new services and new things that instead of being funded by local taxpayer money are now being funded by ARPA. So I think for clarity, I mean, this is very complicated and people can easily get confused, but I think it's important for us as the elected officials to be very clear as far as what the Board of Finance is proposing we do and the use of the funds. And again, I see the benefit to all of our taxpayers in lower taxes. You know, it's gonna reduce our mill rate by $1 million. And still give them the extra services that were in the budget. So, and then, like the superintendent said, it's gonna give us the opportunity in a year or two to see, do we need these extra staff? Or was this just something temporary for COVID and we can make those reductions? So, it's not something we're necessarily with, I mean, even the recreation position, like I think the intention is we're gonna fund it with revenue. You know, if we can't fund this in the future with revenue, well then we'll maybe re-examine the position.
what about the funding of, separation pay for, board of, for the school employees, for next year, and the payment of legal fees, for union contract negotiations? Is that ARPA related?
Because I think I addressed all that at the meeting. Anything that's taken out of that budget becomes a separate ARPA request and then stands on its own. And as the ARPA law is written, that request is valid, because we're under the $10 million limit, so we can use
You need it for whatever you want then.
any kind of money that the town needs to spend to fund its operations can be included in ARPA, because we qualify for that as a non-entitlement unit. So we don't have, that's what happened in the final rule. They expanded it and relaxed the law, the interim rule. So rather than categorizing everything into each one of the categories the 5 categories that we were all taught at the beginning, it's now anything that the town, paving the roads, that's fine. Gasoline, that's okay. So it's not a misuse, it's not inappropriate, it's not illegal, it's all done within the purview of the law, so.
Okay.
Well, that's, again, like, that was my concern.
And that's what I said at the meeting.
Yeah.
And so that's all I was wanting to make sure that that $643,000 was legitimate. You said that the other night. What raised concerns was the fact that the week before, Mr. Wissendier had also gone through and trying to find some certain things and that the superintendent had proposed, and he found that those did not qualify at that time. So I was just kind of not knowing and being honest with you, I have not read the law and not being aware of it. I was just very concerned and wanted to make sure that the things were legit. You know what I'm saying? That's all.
I think you need to trust the Board of Finance on their judgment. I don't think they would do anything that would not be appropriate.
Okay. Next item?
So the meeting for April
21st.
I'm not gonna be available that day, I have a commitment I can't get out of, a family wedding. So I would just ask that we don't hold the meeting and that we schedule a special meeting for the following week.
28th?
And just to check my
The
calendar.
28th would work, yes. April 28th.
Yeah, April 28th works for me.
Okay. So I don't know that we necessarily need a motion for that, could I
That's
be,
fine.
call the meeting?
Yeah.
But I would just ask that we cancel the regular meeting and then just reschedule
Reschedule.
a special meeting to the 28th. We'll just have to make sure that all proposed agenda items are on the agenda because we won't be able to add anything.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, that's fair, good. And the final item,
Do you want-
adding Sydney Flowers, we needed a motion for this.
Sure, I'd like
Oh,
to.
yeah.
We've got
Go ahead.
got a recommendation by Joan Formeister, who chairs
Mhm.
the Conservation Commission,
Mm-hmm.
to add, a person to a vacancy, current existing vacancy.
Mm-hmm.
Her name is Sydney Flowers. She's a University of Vermont graduate. She has significant experience in the environment. And, this would be for a position to expire on 12/22/2025.
Okay, make a motion to appoint Sydney Flowers, to the Conservation Committee, as presented by the first selectman.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion passes. Finance report. Any transfers or amendments? CFO's report.
Yeah, I have 3 items. The first one is, an update on the small business and nonprofit initiative. Earlier today, the team that I chair, the internal review team, made up of Allison Maynard, Lisa Madden, Brian Wissinger, the consultant, George Kribda, and myself met, to look at and review the applications that we have. The deadline for submitting those grant applications was last week. The purpose of the meeting was to make a preliminary determination of the eligibility and award amounts. We reviewed 11 qualified nonprofits and 98 small businesses, so it's 109 potential awards. There were, and I don't have the number, but there were a number of applicants that did not qualify, and they're going to be notified by the consultant of that. They didn't meet the criteria for the program. But we consider the 109 eligible ones, and we do have some follow-up questions on that. Anywhere, I believe, from 7 to 10 applicants need to be followed up with. The consultants are doing that. What we have done and what we've just about finalized is we've developed a tiered decision matrix that's tied to the degree of financial loss and hardship that's been suffered during the pandemic by these entities, and we're going to use that to determine the grant award amounts. So the awards are going to range from anywhere from 1 to 10,000, no higher than 10,000, which would be the maximum. And it looks like on a preliminary scan that all of the awards will be made under the $500,000 cap, which this board had voted for that program. So that's the update as of now. We're like, again,
That was voted as a sort of a target, as I recall.
that was a target, and
wasn't
it looks like we've hit that we'll be below that target, but we're going to be pretty close to it, I think. So we'll again finalize. Again, like I said, we have a few things to finalize here. So in about a week or so, we are ahead of schedule. So in about a week or so, we'll have a better picture of where we stand on this. And once that finalization is voted on, then we'll get the appropriation finalized in CIP and the Board of Finance. And then when that happens, then we can start.
Sometime in April?
Toward the end of the month, I would think that we would start maybe, we plan on the end of April, but it's pretty busy with budget stuff here at the end of the year, so it could lead into May a little bit, early in May. But we then would have the letters and the checks and the affidavits to be signed at that time, so early May.
But there's no appropriation right now.
There was no appropriation right now. There's no final appropriation. They were waiting, the CIP has tabled it and is waiting to see what the
Again, I think the word appropriation is not accurate, because these are federal funds that we get to spend, irregardless of whether there's an appropriation.
I think taking the form of cooperating with everyone will get this entire initiative moved forward. I don't have any reason to believe that it will not be approved. The team will be making their presentation to CIP with evidence, with stories, with answering any questions they may have. So
You got a meeting coming up soon for that?
it hasn't been scheduled.
It's tentatively April 21st is CIP. It'll be a special meeting. It's tentative right now.
So Mike, just a couple of clarifying questions. So you said 109 total. Does that include the ones that were disqualified, or were 100?
No, that's the ones that are eligible.
Yep.
I
So how many
don't
were
really
total?
I don't have the count. I would say, I'm not exactly sure, maybe around 10. I would
10
say.
disqualified.
10 were disqualified, yeah.
A combination
Yeah,
of
roughly,
nonprofits
yeah.
and businesses.
There was 2 or 3 nonprofits,
Yeah.
and then there was a handful of businesses.
So my understanding was that the applications were gonna be forwarded to the Board of Selectmen as well for approval? That was the initial
Wow,
proposal?
I was not aware of that as
No,
part of
it's-
it.
It was in some of the written documentation, I saw the timeline, do you have the timeline with you?
No, I don't.
Okay, the timeline that was given out, I think it said that it was gonna be approved by the Board of Selectmen.
You're welcome to see anything you want on this.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see the application to some point.
Sure.
I mean, it's a significant amount of money, just to kind of see the need, what people are claiming, kind of get a flavor
Yeah.
for what's going on here in town.
We will get, you know,
You have to pick them up in paper, it's too big
yeah,
to
it's all in
email.
paper, it's huge.
Yeah,
It's-
we
it's,
even couldn't even email them internally to each other, we had to, they
Yeah.
were emailing them by, off of letters, so like, we literally had 26 emails of, these are the As, these are the Bs.
You've got a consultant that called each of the each applicant.
Yep.
Yes,
as
he did,
well.
yes, he did.
He's gonna be making the presentation before the CIP.
He'll be there too.
Okay, I mean, I'd really be interested in seeing how this money is gonna be reinvested here back in our local economy, and what impact it's gonna have here locally, for losses, when these losses were incurred, and then how it's gonna benefit Summers and benefit the entire community. So I guess I'd be interested just to see, in those applications, what that looks like.
Sure.
As opposed to going to a profit margin, I'd like to see, if there's an improvement or something like that someone plans to make in their business, okay,
Mhm.
as opposed to just
I don't know,
unrestricted
I
cash.
don't know if that was in our documentation, it might be in George's documentation, 'cause he's got the full, each one, and he's got two big binders that make it, what we have locally is just a summary sheet and a description of the business.
Okay.
And I don't remember seeing improvements on either one of the sheets, so it might be something, that George would have to get to you if you.
You know,
put that info.
just as an aside, that isn't a requirement of the
Yeah.
act itself. It's to remedy and to,
Recognize.
restore the loss that these entities or these businesses have had in order to get them back into, or up to speed again. I think the benefit for the town is that they remain active, they remain businesses, and thereby remain as taxpayers of the town.
Yeah.
As opposed to disappearing and going out of business, so.
Well, I just wanna make sure, I mean, I've heard a lot of anecdotal stories of businesses that say, I had 3 bad months, they were the worst months we ever had, followed by the year of the best time we've ever had, and I more than made up for anything lost, in fact, I've made so much money, I can't hire enough help to do all the work. And I wanna make sure that, because there's so many competing things now, and we have several of them even tonight, that are important uses of the funds, that we're getting maximum use here in town, and that we're not just adding to profit margins, that we're actually going to see this money reinvested here in our local economy and benefit essentially the greater community.
Okay.
Well, these are like, daycare centers, restaurants that are all local,
Things
serve
that were
local
severely
populations.
impacted, yeah.
Yeah.
Preschool,
None of the requirements required them to reinvest it locally, at the end of the day, none of it, that wasn't a requirement.
Well, I mean, I have not
Not
seen
even a
many
requirement.
documents on this, I mean, I wasn't involved in developing the criteria, I mean, the board wasn't, I mean, we haven't seen any of these documents at all, so. I mean, just some very cursory presentations is all I've seen on this.
well, what do you need in the future here?
Well, I mean,
What's your
I'll come in
recommendation?
to see the applications, I mean, again, it may be a very worthwhile program, I just don't have all the information in front of me, that's why I'm asking the question.
Well, we can get you the
Yeah,
materials.
absolutely.
We, absolutely.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, thank you, yeah,
Good.
okay.
Second thing I have is, an updated ARPA proposal funds use.
Sure.
You can pass that along, Bill, thank you.
Thank you.
It's, as of today, based on the actions taken by the Board of Finance, yesterday, on Tuesday. And so, I'll just walk through it kind of quickly, and if you have any questions, stop me. Approved by the Board of Finance is these are the items: the school exchange, study, HVAC study, $200,000 that were given to the schools for student needs, fire EMS for $62,000, the initial cybersecurity and infrastructure, payments to get our SUSER on board, small business nonprofit, grant, that's the consultant's amount, $20,000 appropriated. Social service renovations, that was approved by the Board of Finance, $35,000. Town ARPA items for fiscal '23, Board of Ed ARPA items for fiscal '23, those were the budgetary items removed. And then the capital equipment was also approved by them, so that's a total of 1.595401 is money that's been committed. Seeking a selectman approval tonight, I believe, is the cybersecurity infrastructure, which has already gone through and been approved or recommended by the IT governance committee of $350,000. This summer's historical museum restoration of $65,000. They initially applied for 100, but the roof portion of it has already been funded, or the funding has been determined, so we just took it out of the ARPA.
We're gonna hear from that at the end of tonight's
We will,
meeting.
yeah, it sure looks like we're going to hear
Those
from
two
you.
items.
So, and that totals $415,000, and then, being considered and not yet approved, when I say that, appropriated, excuse me, it's by the CIP and the Board of Finance. The mental health services, which was approved here by the Board of Selectmen already. The nonprofit grants of $500,000, which I just talked about, which was approved again, for an upper limit. Then HVAC engineering study for schools, $400,000, and the police body dash cameras, $110,000. So right now, we have over expended what we're expecting is by $26,870. I'm not worried about that at this point, because I know some of these projects are coming in lower than what they've been anticipated. And I'm also thinking that the HVAC engineering study may be moved out of ARPA funding and into bond funding. It might be a better place for it to be located. So, because I don't want to kick off a study now that will then become stale by the time the bond is passed and the money is available, and then they say they have to restudy again. So I'm just gonna tie the two closer together.
And that was
Just to
discussed
make
at the Board of
sense,
Finance meeting this past Tuesday as well.
It was kind of discussed there, yeah, and so, you know, I think we're gonna end up removing it from here, so.
And that small business one, you said that there wouldn't probably be 500,000, it was gonna be probably short of that, correct?
I can't hear you, Bob.
The 500,000 for the small business and nonprofits, that's probably gonna be short of the 500,000.
It looks like we're in the range of between 450 and 500. I haven't got a final number.
Okay, all right.
So that was kind of keeping the numbers on the back of a matchbook as we were going through everything.
Sure, I hear you, yeah. I was just going 109 times 10,000,
Yeah.
so that's what I was doing a rough.
So that's the
rough
latest,
math.
that's the latest update. I started dating these things now. I think I have a file of about 20 of them. You know, it changes almost every other day, so.
Great.
This is helpful though, this.
Thank
No,
you.
thank you.
That's
Thank
good.
you very much.
Well, it's helpful when some people say, we have to hurry up and spend this money, we only have till the end of 2024.
Yeah,
Well, really, well,
Right.
it's not even the end of 2022 yet, and we have most of it earmarked, so.
Should play back that meeting, Mike, when I was in the Board of Finance and I discussed what was gonna happen and, it's all come true.
Yeah, well, you were right, it was gonna go. The last thing I have is went to the printer today,
Did go to the printer today.
is the,
Bill.
Bill.
Oh, sorry.
It's the budget flyer.
Making it work.
You know, as you know well, the budget was approved by the Board of Finance. It was, it's essentially a 4% increase, in the town. And, this budget flyer is, been approved by the Board of Finance and it was sent to the printer today, so the taxpayers will be receiving it, either tomorrow or over the weekend, depending how fast it goes, so. And it went pretty fast last year, if I recall, so.
So we're still on schedule.
Yep.
As
Oh, yeah,
we put out a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Great, thank you.
so, that's it.
Got any updates from, any updates from boards and commissions?
The,
I got
approved
scheduled payments.
payments.
Oh, all right, you're right. Brian? So, that's G.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion for to authorize the payments from March 31st through April 7th, 2022, for a total of $332,762.77.
I'll second it for discussion, I have a few questions.
Great, I've reviewed them and had all my questions answered previous to tonight's meeting. Go ahead.
So page 5, middle of the page, George Kribda.
Yep.
Okay, $13,437.50. Do we have a contract with him?
Yes, we do.
He's a
Who's the
consultant.
contract? Who signed it?
Tim.
I don't think the board ever saw a contract, we never signed a contract. I mean, the only ones authorized to sign a contract are the board.
I think,
I thought so.
wasn't that authorized when we got the?
When we did the
If you
appropriation
look back
amount?
through the minutes, we just made a,
All right.
I don't think so. I mean, I'd have to look at it, but could you send us a copy of the contract?
Yep.
Just so we can
Absolutely.
see it? Okay. Okay, I don't remember reviewing a contract, seeing one, approving a contract.
It was reviewed by the town attorney. I think I even said that the town attorney had reviewed it and everything was okay, if I recall.
I know.
But anyway,
For that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
I thought
that.
so.
It was in a board meeting?
Yeah,
I thought so, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember it.
so you wanna review the contract?
Information over.
No, I mean, at this point, it's been executed. I mean, I'd just like to see it though, if you could just send it.
Get your
to me.
copy
It's
of
a
it.
not to exceed. It's got
Okay.
an NTX of 20,000 on it, so we made
Yeah.
sure that was in there.
Right,
We also made sure he had insurance coverage.
Okay.
s-
Bob, do you remember seeing the contract?
I don't, but I remember the discussion and all the details,
Yeah.
but again, that's not that I remember seeing the actual contract, no, I
Yeah,
don't, but
okay.
that doesn't mean that you didn't show it to us.
We got it. In
Yeah,
fact,
I
it's
would've-
probably on file with the town clerk. so.
Okay, I feel like I would have remembered, but okay,
Yeah,
all right,
Yeah, I didn't see I don't remember it, but that doesn't mean you didn't do it.
okay,
No,
all right.
you didn't even have to bid, it was like only at that
No, it was
amount,
under the
yeah, yeah.
amount, but I
Yeah,
just,
'cause
I don't
you
remember.
explained it to us in a lot of detail.
Okay, I don't remember, okay. Page 6, Tristan Simmons, Twisted Pair Consult, $16,000.
Yeah, it was his payout of the agreement, when we ended the contract with him and started with Suzer.
What do you mean the payout?
We agreed to pay him the last, 6 months of his contract, and then we owed 2 months as well, so that's a total of 8 months of.
What do you mean, we paid him 6 months extra?
No, we were contracted with him through the end of June. So by breaking the contract, we paid him through the end of June.
So we're gonna pay him for work he didn't perform?
We bought him out of his contract.
and we have a contract for the month.
I don't know that that was ever presented to us, that we were gonna have to pay someone to buy out a contract.
You did say that, I know
Yeah,
you did say that.
we
You
agreed
said we
You
were gonna
said-
buy out a contract?
Yeah, when we,
He
part of
did.
the Suzer discussion was we were gonna pay
Yes.
Tristan for the
Yeah.
rest of the contract.
And you also mentioned that it was gonna save us money at the same time.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there was no other work we could give him? I mean, in lieu of,
I think it was just kinda confusing having both.
Yeah.
Overlap.
It was just getting confusing.
And at the end of the day, I mean, he was, I guess, sour's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I would say.
That we were moving on, and so he didn't really want to do more work for us, to be honest with you.
it's not his choice if he doesn't have a contract. I mean, if he'd ask him for payment, I mean, it doesn't matter if you wanna do it or not. I mean, I just,
Oh,
okay. Okay,
anything else?
that was it.
Great. All those, any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes. Next on our agenda, we have, no updates from boards and commissions, but under pending business, we're discussing the, subject that we've talked several meetings about, the, police body camera proposal, so, Officer Ludwig.
Again. Getting old. So this is, like you said, a follow-up to, previous, BOS and CIP meetings and private meetings, with the Police Accountability Act. By July 1, 2022, we need to have, body cameras for our uniformed police officers in town, our animal control officer, and in all, 6 cruisers that we utilize.
So you have to have the cameras up and running, by July 1.
Correct, yeah. So we started this project, in 2020, looked at 3 different vendors, going back and forth with State Police Legal Affairs, over the past couple months, compatibility issues with, the technology and the company they use, Panasonic/Telrepco. I think it's in the town's best interest to, hop on board with Panasonic. They're still guaranteeing us to have the equipment and the training done by July 1, 2022. I emailed you guys the, updated quote that we received earlier this week. We've brought in, Mark Gibbon from Suzer IT, the IT director. Brian's been dealing with him with, the cloud and the server issues, cause that won't be provided by, Panasonic. That's something we'll have to do separately. So, there's still a grant in play, 30% from the state, once we do the purchase. We can get, if we use the funds that they're talking about, 30% back off the purchase of the equipment.
Is that, Mike, is that gonna be a problem if we use ARP funding? I mean, if we're gonna, for reimbursement, how are we gonna get 30% back if we use ARP funding?
We would
Well-
reimburse the ARPA dollars and.
I don't know if you can do
We'll
that
just
though.
take it,
The appropriation would be for 110 and it would be 80,000 of, or 80,000, yeah, of ARPA and 30,000 of grant of
oh,
state. funds,
capital,
that would-
and then we reimburse ourselves.
And we reimburse capital.
I would check that. I've run into this with a lot of grants, and like we use federal, like for instance, if I use federal funds to pay for someone's
Yeah.
salary, I can't then claim it and
You-
get a reimbursement, even though I would otherwise qualify
You
for
can't use
reimbursement.
it as, you cannot use it as a federal matching grant, that's the only restriction.
Yeah.
You can match anything else.
I would just check the terms of that to make sure that, cause the state, the 30%, it may require that you expend local funds.
We
So I would just make
We would
sure.
expend capital dollars on that.
We would do that, we would expend, yeah.
We had budgeted for this almost 2 years ago
You
now,
using capital money or using
of
ARP
capital
money?
years ago. So we would split it, we would
But
fund.
that's not what's being proposed. You're proposing ARP money.
CIP will determine the final funding source, yeah.
I mean, we just
Right
went over
now,
this.
it's on ARPA, yeah.
It's a CIP project.
Well, I understand that, but I mean, just 5 minutes ago, we heard we're gonna use ARP money for the entire amount, and now we're saying we're not, we're gonna use half
It's
and
called,
half.
this is called preliminary,
Oh, I got
and
that.
again, it won't be finalized until it goes through CIP and voted on. So the top half of the page is
Okay.
final, the bottom half is not.
I would just make sure though that we read all the fine print, you know, on these grants to make sure we can maximize. I mean, Kim, you did a great job with this. I know it's been frustrating, I know it's been a long.
It's been very long and a lot of, very long.
What's the
We're getting
ongoing
there.
cost to this? I mean, I know the original Axon one was 5 years. How is this
Well, and that's
one
what we
going?
talked about, we had a meeting the other day with,
This is a one-time upfront cost,
yeah.
we own it, there's no replacement schedule, no nothing, so every,
Storage is handled by the state?
by the town, we have to
We
buy a
have to-
server.
We have to handle
right
it.
now,
have
the
to-
state is putting it on the towns, they will not
Yep.
allow us to use their servers,
That's
but
why,
because they're, centralizing their IT with all state agencies, we're hoping to get on board with them taking that over.
That's why we brought, Loop Suzer IT in, they're gonna have to, we sent them the specs, they're going out to bid for a server, at least one redundancy, potentially 2 redundancy backup, and on-site backup. That's gonna be a portion of the cost as well that's in this.
So how big is the server array we just bought a year and a half ago?
That's-
Pretty big, I think. It was
It's outside
expensive.
of my technical scope,
Well,
I
I'm
don't
just
know.
saying, I wanna make sure, I know Suzer, I mean, they're great, but, you know, we just bought this, we're looking at migrating to cloud storage, 365, I mean,
The servers that we just bought 2 years ago are outdated already.
I know.
They were 2 years old when we bought them, they're
Yeah.
4 or 5-year-old technology now,
And we're getting cloud storage, which is what we need.
so.
but we're getting cloud storage through 365, so I mean, is the additional storage and servers included in the proposal here?
For the total 110, yes.
So what's the breakdown? It's 80, I'm sorry, Kim,
That's
hardware
I'm
was-
seeing this
the
just for the
hardware
first time,
was-
I know you were scrambling to get this for us here.
The hardware was, what, about 80,000,
85,000 here?
85,000 for the hardware, and then you've got a server, and like I said, they're going out to bid, so we're making a estimate based on what the last servers cost us of
You're
a server
estimating
and backup,
$25,000 for the servers.
roughly. A server last time was 10 2 years ago, and with costs going up, I'm saying it's probably 12 to 13 at least now.
You're probably actually talking about storage and not a server.
No, that was one of the servers last time. I pulled the old invoice and however, so we spent 85,000, we got 2 servers and, each one was right at 10 grand. I assume they have storage built into them, I don't know how it works, I'm not an IT guy.
I know, yeah.
Um,
I've done a few of these, okay, fine.
That's why we're hiring these other guys.
Right, that's why we pay
Suter's
somebody.
great, I feel a lot better having Suter.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine,
We all
you answered all my questions, thank you, good job, thank
Good.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. There is a deadline date too, all right.
Do you need approval for the
Yeah, I
contract?
was gonna ask the same
Do
question.
you have that or no?
Yeah, you need,
You
you
need to
sign
sign
it, right?
it.
Did they have a contract yet or no?
We have the preliminary, the one for just short of 85,000. We just wanted to go over a couple minor things with the vendor, and she was not available, yesterday or today to do that, so. we
So
can
you
get
come
it
back
done.
with a contract at our next board meeting?
We can do that, yes.
Let's just authorize you to
I-
sign it.
yeah.
I mean, if we're under the gun here, so
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we appropriate, up to or that we recommend to the CIP committee an appropriation of up to $110,000 for the police body camera as presented, and that we authorize the first selectman, to execute a contract, upon receiving an appropriation from the Board of Finance.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ken.
So now this goes into the category of, selectmen have approved this.
So since this has
As far
been
as
on
ARPA
more,
as far as ARPA goes, the
Yes.
SIP goes, the SIP
Yeah,
committee.
so
Sure, I'll change it,
All right, yeah.
I can make an, I'll make an error.
so
I'll bring my
because,
computer home and change it over.
because this has been on more than 5 agendas, we're gonna need a demo once they're,
Yeah,
once they're
exactly.
here. I wanna see them, you know?
We're gonna show you the taser demo. You get the taser demo.
I've seen plenty of tasers in my life.
Have you ever felt one?
I have some experience with the taser, on both ends.
Okay,
I think that's a requirement, right?
Oh, man.
all right, what's next? Okay, next item on, under new business is, discussion of possible action on an ordinance to, ban the sale of the cultivation of recreational, sale and cultivation of recreational cannabis. So, got some language that was prepared by our town attorney, which I think has been passed around for
Yep.
Yes, we have it.
review. Has definitions of what cannabis marijuana is, as defined by section 21A-240 Connecticut General Statutes, and talks about cannabis marijuana establishments, what they are. And we've had the town attorney make presentations to the board before on this, as well as to a town committee for to the town for a discussion session a couple of weeks ago.
It's fine with me.
So the purpose of this is, we would not be taking any action on this ordinance ourselves, but we would be asking to set a date this evening for the town to have a hearing, public hearing to discuss the subject of the proposed ordinance.
Yes.
I think the proposal is that be, we're gonna do it 2 weeks from tonight, is that?
Well, we'll have to do it on the 28th.
Do it 28th.
Do one on the 28th, yeah.
7
Okay.
PM, is that good for you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah?
7 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
That's-
So I mean, this ordinance, the proposed ordinance would prohibit cannabis marijuana establishments in the town of Summers, and no building or property should be used for such purpose. So we're not taking positions on it tonight, however, we're moving this to a public hearing so we can gather the input for the next stage of the process before potentially taking action, is how I understand it.
Like, the public hearing would, precede then we would set a date for a town committee to vote.
Cause yes, we would then adopt
Town
it
meeting.
at town meeting,
Yeah, after the
Town
discussion
meeting,
time.
cause the ordinance could either be adopted by the board or by a town meeting, but I think in this case, the path forward will be the.
That's what we're
Instead of
anticipating,
what-
town meeting would decide on the ordinance.
Oh, you'd have
No.
a town meeting instead of us voting for it?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's a good
yes,
plan,
yeah.
I think that's a good plan.
I know you're chomping at the bit there,
I just wanna get rid of it, you know?
Okay.
Okay, so the 28th of.
So I would make a motion that the Board of Selectmen set a public hearing date of, April 28th, 2022 at 7 PM, for the proposed ordinance banning the sale and cultivation of cannabis,
To discuss.
to discuss, and do we need to put any notice in the motion?
The legal notice will go out on April.
Okay, and to direct the first selectman to notice, said hearing and proposed ordinance in accordance with the charter.
It's automatically, I would think.
I already got the
10 to 15
notice
days
done.
Okay.
before that date.
And we'll put this far and wide as we've done in the past.
Sure.
A second for that?
Second.
Any further discussion? Those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes.
Again, that's 10 and no more than 15.
I got it.
Well, 'cause
got
I think,
I
you
got
were
it.
talking about the 21st, so you can adjust
I
your
got it.
posting date.
28th,
Got it.
correct?
28th.
28th,
28th, 7 PM.
7 PM.
Got it.
Okay.
Very good. Next item is our town clerk, Dave Marty, who wants to speak about a town-wide tag sale request.
Yeah, one set of documents for you guys to share, kind of pass.
Great, you can do that.
Hey, Todd, maybe you can sell some of these chairs?
There'd be a lawsuit on, there'd be a lawsuit on some of the chairs there.
For these longer meetings and these chairs, they just don't mesh with each other, you know?
I've already seen that.
After the, earlier discussion here, this seems kind of, insignificant, but, it is a critical part of the town and builds community spirit. And I wanna just, comment and congratulate Ann Logan. This is something she initiated a few years back. A lot of towns are doing it, and last time I went to a town clerk's meeting, there was a lot of good positive feedback from other town clerks that have townwide tag sales. What I wanna do today is ask the board to approve the first Saturday in May and the first Saturday in October going forward being the 2 days in the year where we have a townwide tag sale. And the motivation of this is that the town does have a $5 a day permit fee for tag sales, and it gets waived on these days. And I wanna make a case that doing this free 2 days will actually make the town more money. Because I've lived here for 15 years, and I had no idea you had to get a permit and pay $5 to have a tag sale. And I think there's a lot of people in town that feel that way, or have that understanding. So when you promote this, that you can have a tag sale for free, then everybody can realize that on the other 363 days a year, you're expected to get a permit and pay for it. So, I'm looking at this as also an opportunity to get more revenue for the town. So,
Does that need to be clear, with regard, rather than just implicitly
it is
understand that?
in the press releases and
Okay.
the outline, the guidelines, the things that I.
Just don't expect too much here.
Yeah.
I'm not, I don't wanna be swamped with, all the tag sale work. So that's my recommendation. I have a press release prepared to go out tomorrow to local publications. I think in the past, Ann utilized, Facebook and the town website. I know, looking at, history, I think it was about 40 or 50 households involved in the past, which really in the scope of this town is not that many, but it hasn't been going on for a long time. And then I also see the potential of having like local churches and maybe nonprofits get involved on these 2 days a year. And I think the fact that it's set, that 2 dates are set, that people can plan for it and put it on their calendars, you know, versus coming before the board twice a year, or a month before the event,
Yeah.
and scrambling and pulling something off.
I think this is well thought out and, saves everybody a lot of time and allows people to better plan for the townwide tag sale.
Yeah, all right.
Great.
Well, it's a good plan.
Yeah, sounds good, and if it doesn't work, you make adjustments, but it looks great.
We're gonna need a motion for
Yeah.
this.
Is there any concerns from the police department about doing a tag sale, traffic or anything like that? I mean, is there any?
No, I guess my only question was, is there like rain dates, you know, is like a.
No, rain or-
Saturday,
rain-
you know,
rain or shine.
rain or shine.
Rain or shine, no rain dates.
No, if we know the dates ahead of time, I mean, we can schedule, make sure that we have.
You get a list of all the permitted locations,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, no, it's great, nice, yeah.
The motion for this?
Yeah, we need a motion to approve, this is for, 2022, correct? The tax
No,
sale date
well, I'd
was
like
May
to have this
7th?
be going forward.
Oh, and this, oh, it'll be
From here
forward,
on,
yeah.
so
Yeah.
not just this year, it'll be.
Every year.
This
Every
is
year.
a new annual,
Okay, so annually,
Mhm.
we will have tag sales then on the first week of May?
First Saturday of
first-
May.
yep,
And first Saturday in October?
correct.
Okay.
I'll second that, and the only thing I'd add is that, this is another example of something we need to like memorialize. You know, it seems like these things happen a lot, they're buried in minutes, everyone forgets. You know, so like for the board's like policy manual or whatever, you know, there should be like a line that's on the website, you know, the board has authorized tag sales, so that it's right
Okay,
there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Put it
cause
on
this
the
stuff just
website.
gets lost, and then we're digging through the vaults and trying to
Sure.
find minutes
I
and.
get that.
Well, in the town code book, there's chapter 198 that has all the legalese on auctions and tag sales.
But it doesn't exempt the
No,
fee.
right, exactly.
But it doesn't exempt the fee.
Right, and that needs to be
Right.
noted.
Yeah.
That's what we did tonight.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, alright, I'm in favor.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion
All
passes.
right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Discussion and possible action on land use permitting software. Zoning Enforcement Officer Jen Roy.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I guess I need to just present a request that you authorize, us to, we would like to change our permitting software, and this will actually, allow us online permitting, which we currently do not have, which most towns have.
We should actually be authorizing the first selectman, I think. to sign
Authorizing the
the
first
contract.
selectman to enter an agreement or sign a contract.
Yep.
This new software will, I'm also proposing that we increase our base permit fee by $10.
They
Reason
have to approve
being,
that too.
excuse me?
Selectmen have to approve that,
Correct.
yeah.
Due to the fact, the cost of this new program, there's only about a $1,500 cost to populate our current permits into this new program, so if someone wants to look up an address, we will be able to see permits that are currently issued, which is a plus.
So it's a computerized database for it?
Correct, and they'll populate our current database into this new database, which is excellent. This will allow streamlined approval process of permits. Departments can look at it at the same time. The cost to populate it is about $1,500, which we already have in our land use budget. The $10 permit fee, they charge us $10 per permit issued. So if we increase our base fee from $30 to $40, essentially, going forward, there is no cost to the town.
Wow.
And I'm a big proponent of this because I've for years understood the benefits of having an online permitting system where all elements of the organization can look at it at any one
Right.
time, that all have a part of it,
Right.
understand where it is, where it needs to go next, what activities have been done on it, what hasn't, and it also allows the applicant to do the same.
Correct, they can monitor the status of their
And
permit.
not only that, they can, you know, apply for permits Friday, Saturday, and Sunday
Correct.
when nobody's in
Yeah.
town hall. So it-
Online,
Right.
right?
Gives them 24-hour, 365,
This helps,
availability to.
helps everyone out all the way around.
No, this makes a lot of sense.
Online paymenting, everything,
Oh,
so.
that's tremendous.
Yeah.
So you have nothing now, this is not replacing anything.
We key it in. We have a program that we key it in and it prints a permit, but the public cannot see it, they don't have access to it.
Right.
And this is the cloud-based, we saw 3 demonstrations and this one was the most
This one was
efficient.
by far the best.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the term of the contract?
J3.
I think it's just month to month, we just use
Yes.
it.
Yeah, I think they did say if the time comes that we decide to end the contract, I think we have to give them a 60-day notice.
That's fine.
But other than that, it's, they're just it's a service agreement that, they look at the number of permits issued monthly, they bill us $10 per permit issued, on a monthly invoice.
So what permits are included and excluded? For instance, like is a health permit included here?
Yeah, they're all
Yep.
included. It's customizable as
Okay.
well.
So I don't think we're gonna be necessarily ready tonight, though. I mean, we're gonna need the entire fee schedule. I mean, a lot of times, the WPCA, not that they we can override them.
WPCA wouldn't be on these,
But every health permit needs to be increased by $10.
Well, health permit, what do you mean?
A
Septic permit?
restaurant, a septic, anything?
Oh,
I mean, if there's a food service application, why wouldn't it run through this?
I mean, we can,
Okay.
they're $150, $200.
I think all those, I think you guys set those fees anyways, I don't think, WPCA, as far as I know, I could be wrong, but WPCA only sets the fees for the users,
Right,
sewers and so
right,
forth, I don't think
so.
they.
Yeah, the Board of Selectmen approves.
We
all
have the
fees.
final
Yeah.
authority.
Right,
Absolutely,
yeah.
I
I mean, they can
remember
recommend
Steve
to you
coming
to set
forward.
those fees, but I
Yeah.
think you.
So what we're being asked to do tonight is to authorize the first selectman to sign a contract with Permit Link, correct?
Correct.
And also to, raise the, permit fee by $10 to, offset the expenses.
Well, I think that you might have to raise the permit fee for the building, electrical, plumbing, for those, the base fee, you might have to do that separately, but
I would-
our charter does authorize the Board of Selectmen to, change the permit fees.
So which permit fee are we referring to then?
I would,
Listed
you know,
under the
I
building
would bring
official.
forth this kind of, Bill is suggesting, the list of all the fees.
The schedule of fees.
And that we charge, and then.
Yeah. Well, correct.
Which one of these things are going to be in the system and not? And then those, we want to increase them $10.
We've
They
got
can
time
see
on the
that,
fee. We don't have to
and they
do
can,
that right
and they
now.
can
Yeah.
vote on it.
Yeah, 'cause
We
some
can-
will be and some won't be. I don't want a blanket increase $10
Right.
on every fee, and then a bunch of them aren't
Yeah.
permits
And
or.
they need to be looked at,
This
too.
is land use
Yeah,
permits, building permit, electrical, plumbing, HVAC.
yeah. I'm in favor of it. I mean, I think it's
Yeah.
good.
So
I
this
just
is not,
think
this
we
is
need
not
to-
the sanitarian.
This is separate from Andrea's, food licensing.
Okay.
I think we could probably add that down the road if we
Yeah.
want to.
So this
But
is land use
for our
only.
general, when someone comes to build a house, when they get their,
But give them a list of the current fees, and then $10, and then the new fee. They have to vote on it.
I know that's
It's in the
yeah,
ordinance.
right.
Are there any notice requirements for that? Do we have to hold a public hearing or anything
No,
before we
no,
can?
there's an ordinance for it
I think if
already.
you're
All you have
adding
to do
like a
is-
brand new fee, I think there is, but for an increase, I
Yeah.
don't
Right.
believe so.
So the selectmen have to vote for any fee increase.
You can change or waive them at any
So
time.
tonight then, we would just ask for authorization to sign
Authorization
the
to
contract.
transfer into this new permit link, and,
And then we'll bring the proposed fee on the
Do the fees
28th.
at the
Right.
next meeting.
Yeah.
Fine.
right. Because we're not gonna be changing it that quickly.
Yeah,
It's gonna take him
Yeah,
He
he's
said-
got
he
a
said-
month or two.
He said about 60 days, he said that he could
Yeah.
probably get it done before then with the conversion.
Yeah.
Our data, it
60 days.
seems to be able to
Right.
convert
So
very
we're
easily.
gonna review the fee schedule on the 28th of April.
Sure.
Mike, how is this gonna work? And this is a technical question, but how is this gonna work? So fees are revenues of the town,
Mhm.
and then this is gonna require an appropriation. So even though we're generating more fees and revenue, it's not necessarily, so say we generate an extra $25,000. I mean, essentially, we're gonna need a line item of the budget, an appropriation for the Board of Finance.
Yeah.
No, 'cause it's not an expense.
No,
How does
the only
that
expense here is $1,500.
'Cause it's almost
at
like
the
a,
beginning of the
it's almost
contract.
like we take in the state fees as revenue, and then we send that portion of the revenue to the state.
But it's not reported in the budget, in our budget.
And this wouldn't be either. We wouldn't
Why wouldn't
include
it
that,
be?
we wouldn't include this $10 portion, because
Why don't
this
we-
is a fee to a vendor,
That
so.
seems like a slippery slope to me. I mean, why would you not, because you have a vendor contract, I mean, if we're gonna call it a surcharge, that's different, but if it's a fee, I think statutorily, it's deposited into the general fund. I mean, if you're gonna charge a $10, like you do on credit cards, a $10 surcharge,
You should, we'll cut them a check when they send us the.
So how do we handle fees for like dog licenses and?
The same way.
it's general fund revenue though.
It's a
A
revenue.
portion of it is, and a portion of it goes to the state. So
But
we-
that would be pass-through money, it's just like fingerprinting and
And
things.
I mean, technically, this $10 is a pass-through as well.
It's
We're-
not.
We're
Because the
collecting
dog
it for the
license is
vendor.
statutory,
We're
same with
collecting the
fingerprint.
$10 fee for the vendor,
no.
We're
just
collect-
like we did
We're
with the credit
collecting
card
fees for the general fund on behalf of the town, that we're choosing to pay a vendor to provide a service. So there's a difference.
Okay.
So I think we just need to make sure legally, I mean, Mike, let's come back on the 28th with this. I think it's doable.
Yeah.
I think whether we call it a surcharge, whether we call it a fee, I think we just need to hash that out, because there is a legal difference. I don't wanna set
There
a
is,
bad precedent.
there is, and,
Well, can we get started tonight with just getting the contract signed so we can move ahead with this? It's gonna take a couple of
I'm okay with
months,
that.
okay?
Right.
And then we'll come back
figure
on
out
the 28th
proper
with the
way to
additional
handle it.
information
Yeah, then we
requested.
can word it correctly.
And, right, and we can take in and process
credit card fees.
the money
Yeah.
proper way.
Yeah.
Motion.
Yeah, I'll make the motion here that,
Anticipate the number of.
basically, basically, is it to, have the,
Authorize.
authorize
first
the
selectmen.
selectmen to, sign
Sign a
the
contract.
software contract?
For permit length.
Permanently.
And for with, do you have to name the company? Is it Point Software Inc.?
Permit link from Point Software,
Yeah,
correct.
yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I'll just say, we can't put this live to the public until we have the appropriation straightened out. So I know you said it's gonna take several weeks, but just in case
Oh,
you're really
no.
quick,
It's gonna take 2 months.
60 days, right.
perfect.
Right,
So we'll have it resolved by then.
right, I appreciate it, thank you.
Well, thank you, yeah, thank you.
I think it's excellent. Thank you very much.
Very good job, Jen. Thank you.
All those in support of the motion say aye. Aye.
Yeah, thanks,
Motion
Brian,
passes.
for working on that.
Todd, funny meeting you here.
Never happened before. It's a fixture, and,
honorary member.
You are.
Public
You and
Works
Allison.
Department requests, we have several,
We do.
4 or 5, 4.
Good evening. The first request we have is from Crown Castle, or the vendor for Crown Castle. They're the operator of the South Shore County Fire Department. They're doing some work there. They're upgrading their infrastructure, and they need to lift a concrete shed, essentially, over the fence and into the compound. To do that, they're requesting permission to take down the ugly pine trees that are on the east side. Not that I have an opinion about it.
You mean the messy pine tree?
Yeah, and it actually gave us an opportunity to kind of look at it and say, yeah, the whole thing is pretty ugly. It's something we're gonna clean up. They're gonna take the trees down, lift this concrete shed over with a crane, and then plant giant arborvitaes as shading around that side. The Parks Department is going to then go in and water them and make sure that they live, and also take the opportunity to clean up the vines and other garbage on the south and north sides of that compound to make it prettier.
Good.
But
Sounds
because
good.
it's town property, I wanted them to come before the board.
Did you check with the tree warden?
I checked with the tree warden, he's okay with it.
How big is a giant arborvitae?
Well, it
How
depends
big,
on how old they are.
they're gonna be like
They're-
8 feet.
8 feet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
The ones
in my front yard are 40 feet high.
Yeah, they'll get a lot higher.
And they've been there for 29 years, so they're 40 feet high.
Oh, I know, but I'm just wondering what size they're gonna be bringing in. If they have a crane, you should go for 12 feet.
I've put in 12
I'm sorry,
by
6 to
hand.
7 feet.
6 to
is what
7
they'll say. Yeah,
feet,
6 to
yeah.
7 feet.
Yeah, that's mostly
That's
what
typically what you
start
plant
out,
them
6 to 7
at,
feet, and then they grow.
I planted a few of those last year in my yard, so blocked the view of the neighbors.
That's exactly what I have in my yard too, did the same thing.
Do we need a motion for this?
No, it's just really informational.
That's fine. Thank you,
Sure
Todd.
you guys like it.
Next item,
Next item, we have
Director
the
Rowan.
EMD here as well. It's a request from the Emergency Management Department, which I emailed to all of you, to clear up or designate the Town Hall, Senior Center as warming cooling centers when we have loss of power events in town for a percentage of over 10% of the population. We would like to open those facilities to town residents to use when they don't have power during these storms that we've been experiencing lately. And we would like to staff those with the staff that currently works there, or supplement them between the buildings, between Town Hall, K.B. Fuller, and the Senior Center. To do that, we would like to have this board's permission to meet with the directors and talk about talk with them about these plans, and how, in the event of a grid down situation or partial grid down situation, we'll be looking to town staff to help supplement emergency management personnel.
so this becomes part of their position description.
Right, it's other duties as assigned. We wanna hold a
I
training
think I've
as
heard that in
well.
the military
They'll
before.
do that. Did I give it to you?
Yeah,
Okay.
It's, we also wanna train them, because we don't wanna blindside anybody.
Yeah.
We have another Alfred, and we're asking staff to do stuff that they've never
Yeah, this
done
is a
before.
critical step, and I'm very supportive.
Also, we want to designate or clarify that the emergency management is the lead agency during a large-scale event. And under emergency management, CERT is the lead agency to operate the shelter, to be backstaffed with town staff members, because CERT doesn't have enough people to operate it on their own. But CERT would be the lead agency for the shelter, and has been historically. And Logan, our former town clerk, was the shelter manager as the town clerk. She is a member of CERT. We would like her to continue on in that position, as long as it's okay with this board. 'cause she does a great job on that. And CERT runs a training every fall at that, location, at the high school, as if there was we had opened the shelter, so we do that every year.
Well, I just mentioned that, 2 weeks ago, I became a certified member of CERT,
He
having
did. He graduated
successfully
class.
taken the course.
That's right. And enjoyed the fire training.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
So I guess my question, Todd, is where's the line, and this all sounds good, I mean, but I guess where's the line between plan, I mean, in the event of an emergency, the first selectman has the statutory authority to declare an emergency, which then gives him broad power to appoint people to jobs and things. I guess my question is, where's the line between what belongs in our plan versus what belongs as like an action item for the board of selectmen to take? You know, and we've appointed an emergency management director with a certain statutory authority. You know, I think a lot of these things fall in the realm of a plan.
Okay.
As opposed to a policy. And the plan could become our policy.
Right.
You know, like the emergency operations plan.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how many hundreds of pages long?
It's not that bad. Ours is
Yeah.
pretty simple for.
Yeah,
a
I mean,
smaller
this all
town.
makes total sense to me. I mean, I think,
It's very important.
yeah, the only
We could include the language in the EOP, maybe as an annex.
I believe it's in there now because the fire department was the warming center, we had put it in there originally.
Okay, so we would want to modify the plan and update it, and then bring it to you to
And then
approve.
Amend it.
past, the CERT had been running the warming centers, I think the change now is
The staff here and over there.
Yeah.
from the board of selectmen, that the town employees can also supplement
Right.
running the warming
Yeah.
center.
And we'll still use CERT as warming centers as they're available. Our problem is, there's not a lot of them that are available typically. So we need more bodies, frankly, to run these places, particularly the shelter.
but I think, you know, and the only other thing I have a kind of a comment on, number 3 on the second page, directors work with staff to understand their availability and challenges outside of regular work hours. I mean, I think it's gonna be communicated more to it as an expectation. I mean, in the event of an emergency, and we just went through this with COVID and many others, it's all hands on deck. And I
Yeah.
mean, this is their expectation, is their employment, they need to make it work, you know, and I think what happens is you hear people with varying excuses, and how do you prioritize what's valid? I mean,
Well, the whole idea here is to give people notice in advance, that's what this is all about, Tom.
And also,
That's why
yeah,
this is so important.
exactly.
And that's why we wanna have a training and start talking about it, cause we haven't been, and there are a lot of staff that really don't have
They're new,
emergencies
there's a lot
on
of.
their
And,
radar at
and
all.
that would lighten up their interest in being
Right,
trained, because
right.
they're gonna be expected to carry out certain
But
duties.
we do feel through their directors, because the directors will know, I mean, everybody has different, you know, needs at home and what have you, and we can work around everybody's schedule. It's not saying you have to be here or else, it's, you know, we have these slots to fill during whatever. We're trying to do a soft approach at first.
Yes.
It may have to be harder,
Accommodation, right.
but I think with the staff we have, it wouldn't have to, but
No,
that
but-
may, in the future,
Yeah.
we may have to take a harder stance.
No, it's, this all,
Good job.
this looks good.
You don't need, do you need any approval at all on this, or?
I don't know if they're required to follow.
No, it's really just informational.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think it's fine.
good.
We'll, I mean, we amend the
Good to
EOP
me.
every year anyway, so we'll take a
I
look.
think
at
you're
that.
moving things forward.
Moving in the right direction.
Well done.
Thank you.
Good job, guys.
Street sign. Yeah, the next request we have is to install a street sign to name the access road to the fire training area.
Yeah.
Really just, and actually John can speak to this, cause it's a little confusing to visitors.
So yeah, basically, if you're familiar, there's basically a paved road or a gravel path that goes, from 9th District Road to now gonna be the, Chief Meyer, Burn Training Facility. But a lot of times we'll tell people, hey, meet us at the firehouse, and they put in their GPS 400 Main Street, and needless to say, they pull up with the front driveway, so we're trying to say.
Front of the ambulance.
So just wanted to have a way of naming it. We're doing a lot of training with mutual aid and partners, things like that. We are putting a sign up down back for the burn facility itself, but we thought it'd be nice to put a sign up on the road. We had some discussions with the members. Originally it was gonna be like training way or volunteer drive or something like that. But when we opened it up to the membership, somebody made a recommendation of how about naming it after, Craig Arnone, who passed away in the line of duty. So they wanted to do maybe Arnone Way or something like that. And that really got a lot of support from the members of the department. Thought that'd be really a nice idea.
Sounds great.
I thought it was a great idea.
What's the formal name? I mean, would it be like Craig Arnone Memorial Way? Would it be
I
like
think we
Craig,
just
middle
call it
initial
Arnone.
Arnone?
I think we just keep it Arnone Way and keep it
So make it
simple,
just
so it can
Arnone
fit
Way.
on a sign,
Yeah, there'll be a street sign.
Right, it's not
To
a
a
town
point.
road or anything.
It's
It's
not
not
a
a road,
road.
so we can do
Oh,
whatever we
whatever
want
we
with
want.
signage, but we're
Exactly.
thinking of a regular green, white lettered street sign on the corner with an arrow.
It just says our known way. That's-
Correct.
Perfect,
Very good.
that's good.
Okay, so I think we should do that as a motion. I make a motion, that the, Board of Selectmen, name the access road,
Off Ninth
off
District.
Ninth District Road to the Fire Training Center in honor of, fallen firefighter Craig Arnone Way. And that the Public Work Director designate, said driveway, with a sign, an appropriate sign.
I second that.
Any further discussion? Those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
And the final, item I have is the resignation of John Thompson. He's, currently on probation. He's one of our new hires. He's going back to the private sector. His last day will be April 15th.
So we need a motion to accept the resignation of John Thompson effective April 15th.
All right, I'll make that motion to accept the resignation of maintainer John Thompson, who, will resign on April 15th.
Second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Assistant Finance Director Wissinger to talk about discussion and possible action on employee handbook requests.
Yep, so, I don't expect any action tonight. I know you guys are looking at the handbook overall, but I wanted to get this one in front of you. It was brought to my attention a couple of months ago. There were some questions on the current wording of, eligibility for vacation, time. The way the current chart reads, was confusing to some staff members. So I sent the current wording off to our labor attorney and asked him what his opinion was on it. His response was, it can be interpreted both ways. Well, that doesn't work. So, if an attorney tells you it's right both ways, we gotta correct it and make it right only one way.
Doesn't work.
I asked him to draw up a new chart to make it very specific of how the eligibility works for full-time employees for vacation. This is what I emailed to you guys is what he sent me back. I think this is very clear.
I thought it was well done.
Yeah. Again, I don't expect it. I know you guys are changing multiple things in there, and there's no sense in revising the handbook every other week. But if you guys are in favor of this, I would put it into the packet of changes that ultimately will get approved.
Well, as long as it's not causing a problem, but I'd be all for it, just go with it, certainly, because to me, there's a lot of confusion the way it was written.
There was.
And to me, I mean, I know that we might have changes, I'd like to change many things in that handbook, but, you know, something this important, I'd just go for it right now and
That's
do
your
it.
call, you guys get to make that
You know, I
decision
mean,
on
I'm
it.
just saying, that's just my personal opinion, cause I think it's a very valid concern and it needs to be clarified, and if you have new employees coming in and they're saying, I'm looking at the handbook and it's Greek and I don't understand it, I think it'd be important to, you know, make it in English so everybody is on the same page. You know, and then we don't have all these problems and then you don't have to keep dealing with it all the time too.
Yep.
So, no, nice job with this, I agree, I'm in favor of this. I mean, there's another change I wanna add, I'll get to that in a minute. I guess my question would be, you resigned July 5th. You've been here 10 years. How many days of vacation time do you get paid out for fiscal year 23? So fiscal year, I'm not talking about your accumulated time, saying for fiscal year 23 on July 3rd, how many days have you earned?
2. Or not, how many days have I earned? Not a
For
single day,
purposes of
probably a couple of hours.
Okay,
so
so you
it-
would pay out only based on what has been accrued based on the length of the
The
year?
last day
So it
of,
becomes prorated.
correct.
Now, how about taking time? Say you wanna take 2 weeks off in July. Could you do that?
You might have to pay for it.
We
if you
do
don't have
allow it,
record.
so if you, because the way it accrues, everybody would be taking their vacation in June and you wouldn't have any town staff. So we do allow the vacation to, go into the red, with the understanding.
We vacation time,
If,
and then
so
we
if
make
somebody
an
takes,
adjustment.
if somebody takes 2
someone
weeks,
leaves early.
right, if somebody takes 2 weeks in July and then resigns in August, we would reverse the accrual and then those hours would come out of
Their
their
final check.
final check.
Right.
Which is what I wanted to hear, that's
Yeah.
perfect,
Right,
that's
right.
a good policy.
We've actually had that happen in previous cases.
Of course it has, that's why I asked the question.
Yep.
Of course it happens.
I think we looked at that recently, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, no, it happens a lot, actually.
And to your point, Bill, that would actually be something that I'd like to see added into this that's not in there.
Why,
That wording.
prorated for a partial
Right,
year
that-
service or something?
That wording's not in
Yeah,
this that was
would-
proposed,
yeah.
so I think that would be a good addition to that, so that we're covered in the future.
Yeah, I
So that
agree.
somebody can't say, whoa, you told me I got 2 weeks vacation.
Yeah.
You get a prorated.
Cause I agree, I mean, people typically wanna take their vacation in the summer, I mean,
Yep.
I think it's fair to give them the 15 days, anticipating you're gonna be there the whole year.
Right,
And then, like you said, if they leave early, well, then we take it back.
right.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fair.
That's,
So then, the other thing I wanna add, and I know I've said this for about 3 or 4 months now, I think it's very important that we add the language, for new employees, and we pick a date, maybe April 1st, that they're not entitled to, severance for their sick time pay. I know we've spoken to the town's labor attorney about this, he's in agreement with this, he says that no other towns offer this benefit anymore, this has all been discontinued. He doesn't know of any other town other than Summers that has this benefit in their employee personnel rule. Other than union contracts, people that are grandfathered,
Yeah.
but we would grandfather our employees, that would be my intent here, is grandfather current employees, make it effective only for new hires with an effective date.
The only couple that I do know of, I know the town of Manchester itself has in theirs that, they pay out 25% of the accrued time after the employee has been there for 10 years.
Okay.
So any employee less than 10 years doesn't get
Okay.
any payout,
I would-
but that's just one option as
I mean,
well.
the only thing I would say is just, I would be careful not to just single out benefit by benefit what you wanna change. I really do think it'd be beneficial to look at the entire, as part of an entire compensation issue. And then if you decide on that basis that it should be adjusted, that would make sense. Otherwise, it looks like you're going, I guess the impression you give people is you're hunting for things to chisel away at. That's just my
It wouldn't affect any current employee, and anyone that chooses to work for the
Well,
town in
then-
Summers would know that when they get hired. But I mean, I've never heard, I've been around a long time, as have you, I've never heard someone say, I don't wanna work there because they don't give you a sick time pay.
Yeah.
People wanna know your salary, your health insurance contribution, and your pension,
All
and
I'm
we
saying,
offer
all
all
I'm
three.
saying is that it's part of the total compensation package, and it looks like you're picking out one thing at a time.
I mean, I've never agreed with the payout personally. My wife is, she's a teacher, and she's like, what, you get paid out? She's like, I don't get that if I leave.
I mean, it was $140,000, our taxpayers, and we actually have money in our operating budget now for this, so we need to kind of limit our liability going forward, our accrued liability.
I agree.
And this is one way to do it, but then we grandfather, I mean, we made a promise to our existing employees,
Mhm.
they're gonna get what we promised them, it's gonna be for new people, and this is how union contracts have been done as well. So,
well, I think Mr. Marinaccio raises a good point, though. We need to look at the entire compensation package and maybe some other items as well that could be changed for future employees.
That's all I'm saying, don't do it one at a time, just kinda look at it in a broader scope.
I'm just afraid, I mean, I'd like to, maybe not tonight, but maybe next meeting, I mean, I'm afraid if we wait, I mean, we're gonna be talking about personnel rules in 2 years, you know, and we're gonna get nothing done. So I think we take care of these couple of items.
Are there any other ideas that people have tonight that we might wanna consider?
I don't know, I'm not an expert, so I really, you know.
Yeah, when you say our attorney says this, I have no basis to even believe what you're saying. I mean, not that you're, I mean.
Call Pat, he would, I mean,
Yeah,
Tim, you
I
heard
mean,
this as well, I mean.
I tried to call him today
Who
and
are
talk
his
to him.
clients, and are they, you know?
Couldn't reach him.
Are they even in our area? I mean, so, I would more trust somebody that looked into it in a greater, detail and presented us with some facts. That's all I'm saying, so.
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage you to call from other towns, and I mean, I know CCM does this too, I mean, nobody has this benefit anymore. Yes, they grandfather existing people, but, I mean, most towns discontinued this 10, 20 years ago, and that's what Pat said as well.
What's wrong with doing a review of it?
I'm okay.
A broader review of it?
But we'll put it on the agenda for the 28th.
Yeah, I do agree with you.
Well, it may be nice to hear something from our labor attorney before then.
Do you want
Wouldn't
some
it? I
language
mean-
or something, or do you want Pat to write up something?
Yeah, just
or-
have them write a sentence to add to it, I mean,
Well, maybe to look at some other benefits as
Yeah,
well.
review it.
I think, going to the CCM and asking them for some,
Okay.
information might be helpful.
yeah, I
too.
mean, I don't know how much we have to overcomplicate it, I mean, I think that,
Yeah.
Well, getting information, I don't think is overcomplicating anything, Bill.
No,
I
no,
think
no,
it
but I
gives you
think-
the information you need to make a decision, so.
I mean, taxpayers are shocked when they see that people are getting $54,000 in payout, you know, and it's taxpayer money.
Well, I
mean,
know they are. This could
and we just
be
did
a
this.
benefit, that has outlived its usefulness, I agree, but there are other things that have probably taken its place along the way. Retirement plans have changed, they've morphed into different things, that's true. So, I'm saying, look at the total compensation package, make it competitive, make it reflective of what is, you know, in this environment today.
I mean, we have an excellent package, I mean, we have a 4-day work week, we have a premium health insurance policy with a 10% contribution, which is the lowest of anybody by far, most towns are 20%.
Then that's fine, and I agree.
We have a defined benefit pension with no one has, with a 5% salary contribution, which is the lowest I've ever heard of.
Again, I think it
Most
gives
are
us
9%.
some good,
You know, I
input
mean-
if we hear from the labor attorney about
Yeah.
what is,
Again, it looks like you've done your homework to make sure everything is competitive.
right.
Not that we just feel
Yeah.
like we need to start taking away things.
Okay, we'll be in contact with,
But back to the
Attorney
original
McHale.
question that Brian brought with us tonight, that doesn't have anything to do with a lot of those other issues, I still think we could approve this change tonight, considering that.
well, with the addition of the language that, Selectman Meyer mentioned about prorating for partial year departure.
Yeah, maybe we just have Pat draft up those couple sentences.
You
I was
wanna?
gonna say, I'm on vacation next week, so I won't do it next week, but when I get back from vacation, I can send that to
All right.
him and ask him to
Okay,
draft up
so in
some
2 weeks,
language.
we could do it
So
then.
at the 28th meeting, I
All
can
right.
get you a
And
new one
approve
that's
it then.
revised with
Okay,
that
that's
language
fine,
in it.
yeah, I just think it's something worthy to do, it's simple, it doesn't
Yeah.
require an entire review, the whole you know,
Yep.
whole booklet.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
I would just, that goes along with, again, my own personal interest is getting some type of human resource person, for the, town. And I know the superintendent has talked about needing 6/10 of a position for the school.
Did that pass?
No, he just has talked about, I don't
For
know if-
HR.
For HR, you know, and then he said that he thought that we could share that person.
Yeah,
And,
we
and
could
I
definitely
thought it was,
benefit
I
from
thought
that.
it was a great idea, and I thought that that was something we could do, and at the same time, we're,
That's part of my plan.
at the same time, we're then
Yeah.
fixing the handbook, which to me is
Yeah.
kind of like an unmitigated disaster in many ways, and so if we did both at the same time, we'd be in good shape, right?
Sure.
That'd be good.
I agree.
Okay.
Okay, you got another item here, Brian, right?
Yep, so, CIP request for information technology, this comes to you from IT governance yesterday. We, IT governance committee met with, our new IT firm, Suzer IT.
And the chairman of that committee is sitting on my right. Is
Yep,
that
the
correct?
chairman of the
Okay.
committee is a selectman. The committee's also made up of, CFO Mike Marinaccio, the superintendent Brian Zapla, Board of Finance member Joe Tolasano, and, the CIO of the town of Enfield, Paul Russell. So it's a very diverse and knowledgeable group. So the proposal, the total proposal is for $340,000. It encompasses 5 projects, beneath it. They are ranked in order, of importance. The first one is the transition to Office 365, to migrate the town's email and, on-site data storage to the cloud. And puts us on, Microsoft, security protection, virus protection, and, removes the need for an outdated and constantly changing Exchange server from our network. It's estimated to max out at 20,000. We don't see it getting there, but, that's a not to exceed number. The second one is to, begin the process of migrating our accounting software from, Tyler ProFund, to Tyler iVisions. Stephanie Levin, the new, what's her title? Business manager.
Manager.
At the schools, and myself have met multiple times, on this, topic. We finally nailed down all of the modules that each of us would like and would use. So the proposed cost of that is, $85,000, or again, not to exceed $85,000, depends on the amount of training. That number could also come in, under as well. The third item is a town-wide hardware upgrade of all Wi-Fi and switches. Our current Wi-Fi, routers, do not have a license, so our IT firm cannot, manage them or make changes to them.
Whoa.
You say they're also outdated.
They're very outdated. The company went out of business years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so
We're finally catching up here.
we're finally catching up.
Great.
And honestly, the reason why this one is ranked number 3 and not number 1 where it should be is because, timeline for delivery of hardware is anywhere from 12 to 18 months. So, once they place the order, it will be another year, before we even start seeing these changes at least. There's a portion of this, proposal that shows all of the, buildings and the number of switches and Wi-Fi, access points, in each building. You'll notice on the quote it's for, what, 72,000? Yeah, 72,000. We also, added, extra in there to bring the total up to 100,000. The library is currently running on the, school servers, and there's, some potential issues there, with filtering. So, as the IT firm, digs deeper into them, they're going to come back with some recommendations of changing switches and wireless there as well to direct them to our server instead of the school server. We don't know the exact cost of that yet, so we threw in some extra to make sure that, we didn't have to come back and say we need, more money and have to order it another time.
Makes sense.
The fourth one is a 2-year computer replacement program. The Board of Finance, approved the first year Tuesday night, with ARPA funds. This remaining portion would cover the following 2 years after that, getting us a full 3-year cycle and getting all of our computers, to be within 3 years old, at which time then they would start to, roll into the annual replacement program as part of the operating budget. It's estimated that this would cover about 50 machines. It'll probably be less, but, that's a kind of a ballpark number of, machines. And then the fifth one is a $35,000, upgrade to this room that we are sitting in for audio and visual. And I'm sure anyone watching this feed would agree that they either can't hear us or they have their computer so loud that it's humming in the background, while they try to hear us. So we're proposing to upgrade all of the, audio and visual in this room, most likely after the flooring project comes in, so that we can kind of, work within that scope as well. And that would be, new speakers, receivers, microphones, and so forth in locations, so that we wouldn't necessarily need these disc mics laying in front of us anymore either. So the total of those 5 projects is $340,000. The IT governance, voted unanimously to send this on, to the Board of Selectmen for your recommendation to CIP, if you so choose.
Get a motion?
Make a motion to accept the proposal as presented.
I'll second that.
Just as the chairman, I would just echo, we had a detailed presentation yesterday by Suzer IT. I think the town's receiving a much better service now, with them. There's a lot more leadership, there's a lot more of a vision, they're able to answer our questions, kind of tell us where we're going in the future, what we're gonna need. We've taken the first step with them, this is kind of the second step, and they're planning out the third and fourth step. So, you'll see, the better service to our customers. Even the proposal tonight for land use, we're kind of moving Summers from the 1980s up to, 2010 or so. But we're hoping to kinda get all the way, and,
Speaking of that schedule, how soon can we get this start to be implemented?
So once it's approved by Board of Finance, I talked with Adam after the meeting ended, and, he asked me the same question, when could we begin ordering? I said, once Board of Finance, gives us an appropriation, I said we could then move forward the next day, so
That
he's
might
gonna be
happen
looking for an email for me, hopefully by the end of this month, to, place the order for all the Wi-Fi stuff,
Yeah.
and, that'll be a year from now that we might actually get it in and start working on it, and begin the Office 365 transition as well.
yeah, so it's gonna increase network security, it's gonna provide better access for the town employees. It's been done collaboratively with the schools, so the
Yep.
superintendent and the business manager have been at the table, that's new.
Yep.
That we've had them there, they're on board with this.
Working collaboratively.
We're working collaboratively now with the library, they've always been an island, we're working on getting Public Works fully connected.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot of,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things moving forward here, so, I think that,
Great.
that this is a great proposal, and I think it's really gonna move the town forward.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in support of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. You have another item.
And the last one is a, CIP ARPA request, from the Historical Society for the museum. The original request came in for $100,000, we reviewed it. The roof estimate was, already proposed by Todd Rowland, as part of the CIP plan. So we removed that portion. They have 40,000 in here, Todd had an estimate for 35,000. So we removed 35,000 from their request, making it a $65,000 request. So when we eliminate the roof, it's for the restoration of 20 windows, and window shades, and then a pretty extensive list of remaining items, painting the exterior of the building, the stair rail maintenance, a deteriorating hatchway, which I have one of those too, I'm looking forward to seeing that. Outside lighting, a brick wall restoration, a new bench outside the front door, a building dehumidifier, and acid-free boxes for preservation and storage of donated items.
Sounds like a pretty thorough list.
Yep, and we have a few members of the Historical Society here, so if you guys have any questions, you feel free to ask them, because I don't know the answers.
Yeah, I know those shades look expensive, but they're critically important for preserving artifacts.
Oh, of course they are. No, it looks very good.
Is there more to add? Do you have more to add? I mean, I had a couple questions, but if you had more to add.
Well, yeah, we have pictures, whatever you
Yeah.
need to know, the
Actually,
carpenter.
Brian has the copy with all the pictures.
Yeah, I left it upstairs.
I just want to introduce you to our vice president.
I'm gonna speak on the microphone, so that,
Oh,
once you take it out,
she never changes.
Oh, it's okay.
I'd like to introduce you to our vice president, Clark Pease, and our secretary, Donna Hang.
Hi.
We've been in existence since 1962, and whenever J. Francis Wood was selectman, he allowed us to use the old library. And since then, we've been in the old library, and with the Public Works help, we're trying to take care of it. But we don't have the membership or the funds anymore to do much. So, we did raise money to do 8 windows on our own. And this is the rail, the bottom rail of the first window we did. The glass was just floundering in this. It was not in a good shape. So we did 1 window, and then we raised money to do 7 more. We still got 21 windows to do. So, I'd like to invite you to the museum and visit us sometime. There's our schedule and our newsletter.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
everyone should see the museum at least once.
yeah, this is probably one of the most important buildings in town as far as what Summers represents.
And Public Works can only do so much. They do their best, and they're always available to help us, but
We're
There
talking
are-
about more than maintenance, we're talking about restoration here.
Yes,
And we have to have restoration quality, workmanship on this. so.
and we have two vendors that we have used for the windows, Chris Such and Scott Rowland.
Looks like a pretty good price on those windows, I'm surprised.
It is, cause I've
It is.
had it priced before, about 5 years ago, I had someone come, and he wanted to charge like 10,000 for each window.
Really?
We're getting it down to, because he was gonna renew the ropes inside, so that we could open them, we can't open them.
Yeah,
So we're not renewing it, we're not restoring them to the first original
right,
condition.
right.
But we have air conditioning, so we're not opening the windows anyway.
Security hazard.
Yeah. So it's, do you have any other questions?
I think it's a fantastic project and it's long overdue.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Nobody's wanted to spend money on the museum, and it's a town
Well,
building.
this is a
We
tremendous
don't-
opportunity with ARPA funds
American Rescue
to
Plan.
do that.
Chris and, Scott have maintained their price too from the last year or
Yeah.
two. They're not going up in their price, which
Wow.
I was shocked.
That's
These
amazing.
guys are,
That is
are
awesome.
very, very good. If you've never been in, you wanna stop in sometime with the stained glass and, we have curved, some of the sash are curved up front. And these guys are just
We have-
really,
yeah.
really good, painstaking.
Yeah, you had the building lit up for the holiday festival and it was spectacular.
Great, yeah.
We had 300, people come in that night, over 300 people come through that night.
I think we all went through that night.
Did
I think
you
all of
pass
us
the
went
cup
through,
while
yeah.
they were in there?
Well, I have a nice big donation box.
We saw that.
Yeah. No, this, I mean, I think,
Scott, but I can speak to Chris's work, he's the one that did all the partitions in the towns and
Yeah.
does a lot of our woodwork for
Well,
towns.
Scott has worked at Mount Holyoke Library, restoring their stained glass.
Oh, wow.
So, I think he's pretty good
Very talented.
and reasonable.
We have a motion?
no, I think that my only questions would be, number one, has the Public Works Director reviewed all of these proposed plans? Just to make sure that it, with the town building, that it fits?
Just the roof is the only thing
Well, you know we need painting.
Yes,
I haven't.
I think you need all of it. I mean, I looked through this, I've been to the building. I mean, I think it's commendable that you've done fundraising. I wouldn't expect you to raise all the funds. I think it's time for an overhaul. I agree with the first selectman. It's kind of a gem in Summers. I mean, I think the group has a long history. There's a lot of stuff in there that's amazing I never saw before, that I think we need to preserve. And I think we do have this opportunity, but I just wanna make sure that the public works directors had a chance to look at this. I mean, I think like even something as simple as a dehumidifier, does the electric there, does it accommodate that? I mean, if we need an electrical upgrade or something. I mean, so I just wanna make sure, I mean, those are things he'll think of. I wanna make sure he has a chance to review this in detail, obviously, some of this may require bidding. We can do bid waivers here as the board. That's okay, if needed.
Can we get moving on it tonight though, just to,
Yeah,
to get it?
I think
set?
before it goes to CIP, I think we need to make sure the public works director had a chance to thoroughly review everything and then,
Yeah, if you wanna give me everything, we'll take everything.
yeah, and I'm fine.
And I just request on bidding, I don't know how it works, that obviously take into consideration the age and the quality of
Right.
the windows. It's not just like a replacement window.
We don't have to go to a
I don't think you
competitive
have to
bid
go
per
to-
se,
Yeah.
but if it's over $25,000,
Yeah.
it generally meets the threshold, but there's compelling reasons not to go to bid.
Yeah.
And I don't think any of the people you mentioned are on like a state bid list or anything, but we can grant a bid waiver. And that's fine,
Absolutely.
so, but yeah, I'm in favor of it.
We have a motion contingent upon review by the
Yeah.
director of
I
Public
would,
Works.
make a motion for $65,000 to be used for the, how do you
Restoration.
categorize yourself?
Restoration.
Summers, Museum, or?
Summers Historical
You should be
Society.
making a
Summers
motion to
Historical
move this on to
Society
CIP,
renovations.
and then he can appear in front of CIP,
And,
say he's reviewed everything.
with,
So, I think his
Mr.
motion-
Rowland
So-
reviewing the, recommendations for improvements?
So, Director Marinaccio just made a good point, and that is that we could just send it on to CIP and have Director Rowland there to speak to any issues he might have, if that's
Oh,
I'll
okay,
email
all right.
you, my findings after reviewing all the documentation, I can email this forward, but yeah, I've had every CIP meeting.
And I'll second it, but I guess just my other question, clarification would be, we would then do the work, the town. We would not be writing a check to the Historical
Correct.
Society for them to do the work.
Correct, we would take on
do
the
the work,
ownership of that.
Cause it's a town building.
Correct.
Makes sense. fix it, but we do it in partnership with you, in consultation with you, picking the vendors, the work, together with partners.
Because that's the important thing is the preservation of the historical building, and there's artifacts, there's finials on the roof that are original from 1896 that
We don't want it to change.
Exactly.
We want the roof.
Yeah, exactly.
And the windows to stay the same, we get called Window Nation and, no.
Yeah.
So do you wanna reword your motion to have it sent directly to SIP, and he'll address whatever
Okay,
concerns he has at that point?
So in other words, how would, Mr. Mayor?
You're approving the CIP request of the Historical Society to repair the museum, and that's it, then we'll, and to pass it on to CIP for their,
Did you get?
Got it.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Well, thank you for coming down for 2 hours.
Thank you.
Tonight. Nice to have you.
Yeah, well, this has been amazing.
Good to see you all.
Yeah,
Carol,
thank
I
you.
don't see you enough anymore.
I know.
You haven't changed since
you
I
look
saw
the
you
same,
2 years
Carol.
ago,
Exactly the same.
Stop by more often.
right? I never see you anymore.
Carol and Corey don't even live in Summers. I mean, when they first got here, when they first got here, and they love this town so much.
No, nice work. Yeah, this is great.
Thank you.
So next on the agenda is Recreation and Leisure Services presentation on salary increase needs, proposals.
Hello, everybody. So a couple of months ago when I was here, presenting my, budget, we talked about dial-a-ride drivers, and the pay that they're at, currently at $14.75. We tried hiring new drivers and having a difficult time. We did receive one application, but, we discussed the price, they were at $14.75. I had proposed that we increase their, rate to $20 an hour. We did have a discussion, but nothing was, voted on. My question is, are they going to get a pay increase, and when is that gonna happen, and how much is it going to be? I know I've heard in subsequent meetings that, there's gonna be a pool, a 4% pool, but that pool is not gonna get the drivers up to where,
Well, yeah, the purpose of
They
that pool
should
is
be.
not, this is something that's really
This
outside
is different, this is
outside
totally
of that
different
Okay.
than, we weren't trying to get it up to $20 through a 4% raise.
okay, so,
What would be the expense, raising it from $14.75 to $20, say, per hour?
Brian, you working?
I think Brian was
Now,
figuring
over there?
before,
How many hours a week?
$6,700 was if it was $18 an hour, as I recall.
Give me a minute.
We also have, one of our longtime drivers, Ed Hart, he is going to retire from retirement, really retire this time.
Really
So,
retire,
at the end of August or end of September, he will be leaving. We've left open the dial-a-ride, position and have received no other applications at all. So, we're gonna need to hire somebody.
So how many hours a week is Pat working, and how many hours a week is Russ working currently?
So Russ is a per diem and only going to be working as needed, so that's gonna be really, bus trips.
Doing trips. Alright, so.
Pat currently is working 16 hours a week, and Ed Hart is at 24, so it's really a 40 hours a week. And Russ is gonna be as needed.
Bus trips, how many bus trips you planning in a year? 12? One a month, two a month?
Hopefully one a month.
So he'd be working 12. Put in
And then-
15 just in case.
And then, I'm sorry, what was Pat again?
Pat is at 16 hours,
Pat is at 16,
and Ed is 24,
and Ed is at
40 hours a week total.
Plus on-call, which would be the 12 trips.
Alright, so, and you'd be moving Ed's position to 20 as well? So that you could hire and fill
I would
somebody?
like to.
Right, to
I
fill
think,
it,
I
be able
think
to
it would
fill
be
it.
easier
Just
to
making
find
sure I got all
people,
my,
qualified people.
collectively, looking at about $11,300 total to go from the current Rates, you get two at $14.75 and one at $14.86. Moving all three positions to a $20 an hour position would cost you right at, $11,300.
Now, where did the $20 an hour position come from? Where'd you
So
determine
I
that?
did a survey of surrounding towns, and they're all around $20. They're not all at 20. We have East Windsor, their full-time is at $22.65, their part-time is at $18.25. Enfield is at 20. The town of Portland is at $20.90. The town of Stafford is at $15.50. And Stafford is having a very difficult time as well.
I bet.
Yeah.
How
I've heard a
about
lot
like
of towns are
Ellington,
having trouble.
Vernon, how about some
So
of those?
Ellington,
Suffield?
Vernon, they're all through Hockenham Valley. They don't have their own dial-a-ride drivers. They are, that's East Hartford, Ellington, Manchester, Tolland, and Vernon. And Hockenham Valley, pays $17.50.
I mean, I guess my concern would be, I mean, we just went through the budget, it hadn't even gone to a town meeting, and now we're making an adjustment to the budget. We're already at a deficit of $2 million in the budget, so I mean.
So we discussed this, but there was no approval, there was no vote on this, but this was definitely a discussion from 2 months ago, on the drivers and on the salaries.
And I think we also talked about, the safety issue, and that you wanna make sure you have people driving these buses that are competent and are gonna be very much aware of their, passengers.
I think it's an essential service, and as far as I'm concerned, and I think that, yeah, it is a cost, and I understand that, but these are services that we have to offer these people, and we're gonna have to realize that, to get competent, qualified people that are going to do this in a safe fashion, we're gonna have to pay them to do it.
Well, the question for finance is where would
The question is where you get the money from.
Yeah.
Do you have money in your budget now?
No.
So currently, alright, so we budgeted for fiscal year '23, and that, in the driver's line item, we budgeted $35,000. With these rates, the fiscal '23 cost would be $43,500, so it's a $8,500 increase to what was budgeted, cause that line item's never been an exact budget.
I think there's
Let
extra
me
in there
make
for
some
the
changes here real
monthly
quick.
trips.
So if you go to 18, if you baby step it to 20, you go to 18, it makes the line item $39,160, so it's a $4,000 increase.
How does that add up?
Based on the budgets.
Excel.
Yeah. At 18 instead of 20, cause we budgeted 35, so at 18, the total.
I thought it was 6,700 if it was 18.
What's that?
I thought that's what we
42.
talked about earlier. I asked you earlier in the week, at $18 an hour.
Yeah, so.
But that doesn't include the 12 trips,
Right,
one a
and
month.
it also was, didn't have exact, that's why I asked her how many hours each person is working a week, so that could, it changes. But, so at 18, it's a $4,100 increase to the budget. The 4% of the, if you took 35,000 at 4%, if you were just increasing it, say the 4% times .04,
So
would
I'm
be
not against-
1,400.
I'm not against the idea on its face. I guess my
Right.
question is, what are we paying our firefighters to start, part-time firefighters? What's a
23.
new part-time firefighter make per hour? Not medic,
Yep.
firefighter EMT. Thought it was 20.
Our most
So
recent
it's
one is
23.
at $20.05 is our newest,
$20.05.
it's our
So we're
newest
paying
hire.
someone that needs essentially a CDL,
Yeah.
they're a certified firefighter, and they're a certified EMT, we're paying them $20 an hour. Do you have any other salary adjustments you need to make for your staff? Besides the dial ride?
Well, I'm going to, I wanna discuss the, supervisor position, that we
Okay.
can't find any application,
And I know we
candidates for it
previously
either.
talked about the rec coordinator, and then we have a proposal for a new rec coordinator, but we have the same one as the old one. So I mean, I guess my fear is, looking across the town, big picture, you know, I mean, where's it gonna stop? You know, I mean, we're gonna give 6,700 here, we're gonna give 10,000 here, we're gonna give 5,000 here. Next thing you know, it's $80,000.
Well, but
Where do we get the money
we don't
from?
have any candidates, Bill, so
Yeah.
we don't have any applications coming in for a dial-a-ride driver. So if we don't have drivers, then we are not going to be able to offer dial-a-ride to the seniors in town.
Yeah, we're currently
Or
in
to the
a
disabled.
dire position, needing to bring people on board soon.
Well, I think my point is here, not that I'm against this, and not that I would say that we don't need dial-a-ride drivers, I think we do. I think my point is we're faced with choices here. You know, and I think we have to prioritize and make choices and make cuts. You know, and where do we make the cuts? Because we can't afford all of it, you know, and I know that if you look across town, we've heard from the library people are underpaid. Now we've heard from the town clerk that people are underpaid. You know, we've heard from all these different departments that they need more money.
Well, I think the expectation is when the HR person gets hired by the school system, we're gonna be using that person to review all of these positions.
But I guess my question is,
But
where's
right
the
now, we've
equity?
got a crisis right now that we've gotta address.
Okay, but I mean, where's the equity in that we're gonna cherry pick people and give them an increase, but then other people that have been here a long time are paid at a low rate, and they're not getting an increase? I just haven't seen a comprehensive plan on how much it's gonna cost.
Well, I don't think what she's cherry picking, what she's telling you is we can't get people to do the job. And I think, right, isn't that what you're saying?
That's
And if we
absolutely
don't
correct.
offer a competitive rate, we're not gonna be able to offer these services, and that's what you're telling us at this particular point. And I think the problem is, from the information you gentlemen have given us earlier, a lot of positions, unfortunately, in this town, the salaries that we have, for many of them, are either in the middle or the lower end of the salary scale for many of the towns in the surrounding area.
But
And
there's
so-
a cascading effect here, and you have to be aware of internal inequities or internal equity
Yeah.
when you're pricing out a position. So I don't think you can make a bus driver at $20 an hour and expect to pay an EMT the same amount of money.
So how about a motion to go with $18 an hour at a cost of $4,100?
Now, this is gonna require approval of the Board of Finance as well, cause there's no
Oh, if
appropriation.
they do it within their budget, it won't.
But we've heard that they can't.
For next year's budget, we would need to add money to it,
Well, but what I'm saying is that
I'm
I
looking
don't
at
wanna
current
set a
year.
salary that there's no appropriation for, because we don't have an appropriation right now. is what
No,
we're
I
doing.
fully agree. I wanna see if they can manage it within their current budget, this year, because they were short drivers
Well,
for a
Brian,
while.
honestly, I don't care about this year, because it's long term, we're not gonna bring them
No,
back
I
to
agree with you.
1475.
I agree with you.
We need to keep them at 18. Or we're gonna cut their hours, so I think we need to send this to the Board of Finance
I mean,
for their
if
approval.
you hire them at 18, you're not gonna give them an increase at the beginning of the year. They will only have been here for a month or so.
Yeah.
Or 2 months.
Yeah, nobody would get an
So
increase.
no one gets an increase.
Even the two current
No,
ones
I
are
agree
only
with
a
that,
month
but
or
I'm just
two
saying
old.
that there's no appropriation for next fiscal year.
Right, next year's budgeted amount was 35,000, we would be looking for 39, so we would need an appropriation of $4,000.
It's still inappropriate, it doesn't matter
No,
if
I
it's
agree
hours.
with you, I agree with you.
Okay, so I'll be in favor of it if we send it to the Board of Finance, so I think we would recommend, raising the rate to $18 an hour contingent upon receiving an appropriation from the Board of Finance,
Appropriation for fiscal '23.
yes, from the
Yes,
Board of Finance.
okay.
For how much? $4,000?
For
$4,100?
Yeah, $4,100, yep.
Sounds like a compromise.
Was that a motion? I'm so sorry.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
yep.
Okay.
Contingent upon approval of the Board of Finance.
Okay,
For an additional appropriation of $4,100 for the fiscal year '23 budget.
okay, thank you, I'm sorry.
Any further discussion?
I just, like I said, I think we need a comprehensive plan, I know I said it before, but it's very important, we're gonna be faced with tough choices here. And I know we're gonna hear in a minute about another salary increase.
That's
And
right,
it's been
we are.
cascading, and we already
Well,
ran
again,
a
these
$2
are-
million
these are-
hole for this budget. We're $2 million deficit essentially funding between a tax increase, ARPA and fund balance. We're negative $2 million, and now we're increasing spending before the budget's even passed further. And I know we're gonna hear more increases, I know we're gonna hear people asking for more money, in the next couple of months. So I wanna see a comprehensive plan with salaries, and I think we may have to look at eliminating positions. You know, what do we need, and what do we not need? You know, we talked about land use, you know, we have 5.5 full-time people in land use. Do we need 5.5 full-time people there? You know, how many do we need in recreation? How many, you know, where are the synergies with departments? Do we combine departments? I mean, it just doesn't seem sustainable to me.
I don't think we have enough people to combine.
Well,
Department.
I think when you
I'm
look
just
around
saying,
the town,
I'm here,
I
I've been here
mean-
11 years. and-
So our department was combined, recreation and
Yeah,
senior
I don't
services
think
was
so.
combined.
About 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, we have
3
two
years
part-time
ago, maybe.
employees over there right now, and that, we have no full-time employee at the senior center right now. It's been empty since the beginning of December. We've been trying to
Well,
hire.
can we just work on this motion
Sure.
first here? Yeah, I think it's on the table.
Okay, we'll talk about the other one,
We've
okay.
discussed it.
Somebody needs to second it.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Senior Center Supervisor.
Next, so, we opened up the, senior center supervisor position. We received about 19 applications, 20 applications. After reviewing, the applications, I scheduled 6 people to come in for interviews. We had 1 show up. I did get 1 comment that said that the annual salary is significantly lower than what she was making now, and she would not be able to afford that loss. Another comment was, thank you for the invitation for an interview, but I have to decline. And a third was, I looked and my commute would be around an hour each day, which I think is too much. The others, so when I received those, people that declined the interviews, I went back into my pile and scheduled more interviews, and none of them, returned my email. So the 1 person that we did, interview did not have the qualifications or the supervisory experience, that we need or are looking for. I, since then, asked Brian to reach out to CCM, so that we could get a report to find out what supervisors are making, within the state. We are significantly lower, although this paperwork doesn't really give me the whole picture of what the position entails for each town.
Most of them are director level, I would assume.
So, well, it is
Right, well, that's
director
the
level.
only position that they
That they
have.
report.
That they report, right, so.
Director?
Yeah,
Right.
with senior
Yeah.
center director.
Right.
Yeah.
So Summers is on here as a supervisor in the supervisory position in
Right.
here.
It's under the senior center director button, and then it asks you for specific title, and we called it a senior
Gotcha.
center, I think it might have even been listed as senior center coordinator, cause I think that was Jillian's title,
Yeah.
was senior center coordinator, so without going town by town and
And
looking at the large
researching,
profile.
right. I don't
um,
have that whole picture.
Yeah.
But it's very telling of where we are in comparison to other towns. Again, supervisory director, I don't know the whole picture of it.
There's a big difference between the two.
A huge difference. I mean, this is more like
Definitely.
someone running
Yeah.
programs as opposed to someone managing a big staff. I mean, really, you're the supervisor.
Well, even,
You know,
even
I mean-
towards the lower end, what is the lower end salaries that are being offered? I mean, just out of curiosity.
55, 57,
55, 57?
55, 57.
Yeah. At least that gives you a ballpark figure even on the low end of.
Right, so I was hoping that we would at least, in all of the applications that we received, we did not receive 1 that even worked in a senior center, not
Sure.
1. I thought that we would at least receive either administrative people from a senior center or a program coordinator that would be looking for that next step up. We didn't receive 1.
That's indicative of the job market in general.
Yeah, of course it is.
I think so.
I mean, we had the same thing when we were advertising, thank God we had an intern who was familiar with us, who wanted to work here, because I don't think we had anybody that was qualified.
Yeah.
That was applying, so.
So I did reach back out to CCM. I asked them if they could do a survey of what admin support are making at senior centers and what program coordinators, so I can at least have a
Yeah,
better
good.
feel.
Yeah.
He said that he would do a survey of around 5 or 6 towns,
Yeah.
but it would take up to 10 days for him to get the information to me. So I am waiting for that
Yeah.
information, but I would like to know how much, what should we be offering?
How do we know the 55 is not right, and then you just hit a bad lull in the job market, or?
No,
I mean,
it's currently
I'm-
43 or 44 that
We
we've got at the high.
budgeted, I think we budgeted at 48.
What's that come
40
out
was
to
the
for
high end.
hourly rate?
At 48,
At 35 hours.
Yeah, but take out tax.
it comes out to, 26 3637.
I mean, that's a pretty high rate.
I don't disagree.
I mean, 2637's a pretty high rate.
That's at 48,000, and I believe
not
that's
what
what,
his position
I
is
believe
for.
that's what we budgeted it at.
This
48.
position is at 40 to 44.
I think we budgeted at 40. I've got on my spreadsheet budgeted at 48, so.
I mean, the
No.
job duties, those job duties, that position, I mean, has shed a lot of leadership kind of role into, it's morphed into your role, the director role, because at one time it was a director's position.
Right.
And so now, one wouldn't expect them to have that level of need or competency in that role,
Well,
But
they
you
are.
still got two part-time people that
Right.
need to be,
Yeah, but they fall under Maureen, really. I mean, what's the supervision load in two part-time people? I mean,
It's not two part-time, we also have the dial-a-ride drivers, so they're managing
so
those
four, I
four
mean.
part-time people,
Yeah.
and they need to be in we need to have a full-time person in that building that's supervising them. I'm not managing the day-to-day, activity that's going on in the building, that's what the supervisor is doing.
I mean, what kind of skill sets, if somebody doesn't have a senior center experience, what kind of experience would they need? Is there anything that's transferable?
supervisory experience.
Supervisory experience is the number one, they have 4 people that they have to manage over there on a day-to-day basis. It's a big administrative role as well, so Pam and Flo are both part-time, helping with programs, so program coordinator, setup and breakdown of, just being in the facility to help with the events. Flo at 25 hours, we should be doing a lot more programs in the community center, but at 25 hours, there's not enough time to do anything.
We also need a certain amount of continuity, don't you, for the seniors,
Where do we advertise?
for the seniors who are there,
Mhm.
to know that they've got a person that they can
Yep,
rely
that
on to
they're being
always
supported.
be there.
Right.
When there's a perception that they're secondhand
Well,
activities
I know
in
we
town
did
and-
post it on Indeed, but that gets wildly
Oh,
expensive
so
quickly.
it went out
No,
on,
it's gotta be worth it.
it went out on Indeed,
Yeah.
it went through, CASP, which is the, senior center
CCM.
personnel.
On
It went through
CCM.
CLASS, which is, the social services, website, and it also went out, I posted it on, CRPA, which is the
Okay.
Connecticut Rec and Park Association.
Kim posted it on the CCM website, I believe, as well.
I did not
Were you,
Oh, that wasn't that one?
No, I didn't think that was
were
the-
you putting a salary on that when you put it out
Yes.
there?
Of course.
I mean, it just doesn't seem, I mean, it's about the lowest level supervisor you can have. I mean, I think that it's more of a programming role than, I would disagree that supervisory is the most important. I mean, it's very low level. If they have problems with their employees, they consult with you. I mean, even your staff is fairly small in the whole scheme of things. I mean, you only have, what, 1 full-time person right now? And then some part-time people, and then you'll have these 2 senior center. So, I mean, a staff of 3 or 4 isn't exactly, I mean, I'm okay with leaving it a supervisor. I just have a problem with knee-jerk reaction just raising the salary, because $26 an hour seems to me like a decent.
Yeah, we're not getting any response, and we need a person. We haven't had a person in this job for over 2 months, right? And
Since the
you got
beginning
a
of
season
December.
coming up on you with a lot of expectations by the seniors.
So, I mean, I guess my question would be, what synergies have we seen then with rec leisure services? I mean, all I've seen, just from my seat so far, I've seen, we need another position in rec, we need more money for the senior center, higher salaries. I mean, I'm just wondering what benefit. I've seen just more cost. I don't know that I've necessarily seen more programs, more anything. I mean, I've just seen more cost. I'm wondering what benefits we've seen from this new consolidation.
We are having a difficult time creating new programs at the senior center because we don't have the staffing over there. We have part-time people. COVID has still been playing a part, and not having some of the seniors come out, there's only so many things that we can do to create these programs when we don't have the staff to do it. So there are new programs, there's, on the rec side, there's new programs that are coming out. On the senior center side, we're getting back to some of the bus trips. We have, the monthly, bus trips that we're putting together. We have, some of the other trips that are going, Flo has planned out a whole bunch of them.
Yeah.
That they haven't been able to run in like 2 years.
Yeah.
So we have a whole bunch of those coming up,
I don't know, I'm just wondering.
we can't create more with no staff. So when people are out sick, we literally have nobody to be in the building.
No, I wanna have a good senior center, but I mean, you know, you have a social services staff too, I mean, is there some type, can you help with coverage? I mean, I know they have their own jobs, I understand that, but I mean, there's, I don't know, I mean, in a small town, I see us throwing a lot of money here. I wanna have a good senior center, I think we need a full-time person there, I don't disagree with that. You know, but I think adding another rec position and then increasing all these salaries, I mean, I haven't seen any benefit really, like the synergies that were promised. You know, where's like more efficiency, where's the cost savings, I haven't seen any, I've actually seen cost increases. So I mean, where's the benefit?
That's because it hasn't worked in the past, we've had a lot of problems, we've done summers on the cheap, and we're paying for it.
You know, and you have to, don't underestimate what happened with COVID, I mean,
Yeah, no, I
you know,
agree.
the staff and the programs and everything, and, let me, what's the job description looking for in terms of experience? Is it, I mean, do you think the salary is equal to the job description experience or, requirement? I mean, if you lower the experience requirement, you might get somebody who's, this could be their first or second job, but doesn't mean they wouldn't be good at doing it.
We just interviewed someone that had those elements, right? Those qualifications.
So the person that we interviewed didn't have any supervisory experience. She was not qualified. There was no way she was not qualified for the position at all.
That's different, I mean, okay, I trust your judgment on that, but.
Well, that's the only person that showed up out of 20.
Yeah.
Well, that's not indicated of what we're paying, that's indicative of the workforce that's out there now.
Yeah, and I think people in that field that we had discussion afterwards are really burnt out as well in the field of social services.
There are a lot of people that work in
senior services.
nonprofits who don't
I know,
get very
but-
much money,
but
who'd
it's-
love to work for a town
Oh, I
and get the
totally
benefits that
understand
are in it.
that, but.
And town residents, I mean,
Well, that's why I'm
people that-
surprised
yeah.
we didn't get any, you know, I put it on Facebook, I mean.
I just
put
don't
it
know that
out
money's
there.
the answer, I mean, maybe,
I don't know that money's the answer either.
I don't think money's the answer, honestly, I mean, you add $6,000 or $8,000, I mean, number one, it's unbudgeted. I mean, we're gonna put up to
Well, if you
$30 an hour.
budgeted 48,
I've seen a lot of
Yeah.
positions, even in the
Yeah.
finance area, when I look at the finance job postings, I've seen a lot of positions, they remain open,
Yeah.
they're reintroduced, they come back out again.
Yeah.
It's like, people are just having a hard time
Yeah.
I
finding
agree,
a
and
fit, finding
I do
employees.
agree with that,
Yeah.
it's a really hard time right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
They're
Frustrating.
offering bonuses, to people, trying to get people to get back into the workforce. I agree, I don't have an answer as to why we can't fill
Well-
this position. All I know is we can't. We
Yeah.
did not get any good candidates, or qualified candidates. So I don't have an answer for
I
you.
mean, the only thing I could tell you is to repost and try a second time, to see what
Keep it out
happens.
there.
It is open, it's still open, it's still on
Yeah,
CRTA.
well, they get stale, I mean,
Yeah.
you
Well,
can
have
you
to go
increase
down
the
and-
salary range to
You
48
could even change
as
the title
budgeted?
a little bit.
Yeah, I think we
or
could if it's
whatever,
budgeted.
Yeah,
Let me make sure.
How about this current year's budget though, that's the question,
we-
what's the current year budget?
The current
44.
year was budgeted at 43 or 44.
Well, that's what I'm
What
confused.
was,
I think she was at 44.
and it's higher because, right, we haven't paid a salary in 4 months.
You haven't paid that salary.
Yeah,
It was
agreed.
budgeted at 44,720.
What, Brian?
It was budgeted for the current year that we're
Right.
in at 44,720, and we haven't paid a salary in 4 months.
Yeah, you could bring it.
Let's see.
Money's there, in other words.
Next year is 48,
Let me find this
Well, that makes a whole
submission.
difference.
yeah, I mean, I'm okay if it's in the
There.
budget.
I just wanna verify.
Well, why don't we go with 48 is the.
I wanna
Let
make sure
Brian
that
make sure,
I wanna make sure it's in the
Brian.
proposal.
Yeah.
Hey, you probably have 48 for the remainder of this year, I mean, what do you got?
Yeah, this year you could definitely get away with
I
it.
just wanna make sure on the additional appropriation,
Right.
I mean, yeah, but.
Tell you.
I mean, you're not gonna get a senior center director level person, so I think it's
No.
more, we're looking for the program leadership potential, I mean, we're gonna get a new person for this, I think. You might get lucky and get someone with some experience, but you're not gonna get someone that supervises a staff of 20 that,
44.5 is what we budgeted at.
Yeah.
I've got a spreadsheet with 48, but, when I do the math out, we budgeted at 44.5.
Well,
That's why I'm waiting for CCM. I'm hoping that they will give me some information on what the program coordinators are making and what some of the admin support are making in,
Program supervisor.
So,
in some of the.
so you get that information and let's hypothetically, it's no different than the salaries we have, let's say.
Mhm.
So then what? We're stuck. We still have to advertise, we still have to look, we still have to try to find.
Call it something else, I
So-
don't know. Program supervisor, I don't know.
I just can't imagine that $4,000 is gonna make the difference.
Isn't there, I mean,
Coordinator,
our previous person came from, basically a rest home, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's, basically, that was all the applications that we got.
and is there something inherently bad with that, or
No.
that we can't? How, you know, there could be a diamond in the rough, you
No,
never
like
know.
you're
Right,
right.
And that's who we interviewed, and
Well,
only
there were
one showed up.
performance issues, right? I mean, with the former person. Made it difficult.
Well, yeah, there were, but I'm saying, that just because someone comes from the same environment doesn't mean that they have the same issues.
Right, and that's who we interviewed. Those were all the people that we called in for interviews, and only one showed up.
But I think to move the needle here, where you're gonna attract someone, you're gonna have to go up $10,000 to make a meaningful difference, but then that's gonna throw off all the other salaries
Yeah.
of everybody else in town.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Agreed, this is bad timing, and I knew it, but I'm not sure what else to do, other than to come to you and tell you, this is where we are. We did not get any applicants, and I'm not sure where to go from here. So I am looking for your guidance to help us through this, so that we can run the senior center in the way that it needs to be run.
yeah, I mean, I think, you have programs, contractors, things, I mean, you're gonna hire dial-a-ride drivers now, hopefully we'll be able to get some people with this increased
I hope
service,
so.
the trips and things. And then, I mean, I think you can be innovative, I mean, partnering with the library, we have our new health staff, to run programs, leverage town employees, the fire department, to run programs at the senior center, and then it just becomes administrative clerical work to get people registered. We have a lot of businesses here in town, I mean, businesses that want, I know youth services is using Story Barn, I mean, we can.
I think the optics here are gonna be really important because the seniors are looking at this
Oh, I agree.
very closely.
Yeah.
And if it looks like you're just doing a patchwork and
I would
steal from here,
re-advertise
steal
again,
from
I'd
here,
go a wider
Mondays
net.
and Tuesdays,
I would cast a wider
Thursdays
net.
and Fridays.
I would interview just about everybody who applied,
Mhm.
just to get a feel for the persons and personalities, so.
Yeah,
well,
I think it's
the
just
president is
indicative of the
saying
job
too.
market.
I do too.
A lot of, my son's been out looking for jobs different places, and not to brag, but he's very qualified, and he's got zillion offers in many places, and so on and so forth. And he even, did a lot of things, but he says, Dad, what's the problem you got up here? Nobody wants to drive to Summers. Nobody wants to drive to Summers. And he told me that straight up. He says, Dad, you gotta understand that. Nobody wants to drive to this town, and he says also, there's nothing around here. There's nothing around here.
Who said that?
My son.
Well,
And he grew up
everybody's
in
son
the-
says that.
And he
They
grew up,
they end up
look, my
coming back
son
after
went
they
to
get
school
married
for,
to them.
my son, hey, I'm just telling you, he went to school for business, and he said it's very difficult in a lot of ways to attract people to certain rural areas. And it's not just Summers, it's many towns that are like this in rural areas, and they have a hard time attracting people and to live here. And you can make believe that that's not true, but it's definitely true.
Yeah,
And
every college
you
kid
gotta
gets
deal with it.
out,
Plus,
they go,
what's the
they
cost
work in
of
the
gas
big
now?
city.
Okay, so what's the recommendation here? That's what I'm,
I think we repost it, I mean, I would be in favor of raising the salary, but only if we change the job, like if we made it a director, then.
or a coordinator.
No, I would make it a director, I would just say, make it a director, cause the seniors have said that, they want more attention. That may appeal to people too, but I don't think we're there yet.
I thought we just did a reorganization 2 years ago and take the director's position out.
I just haven't seen the synergies, though, is what I'm saying, I mean, I asked, I
I
haven't
don't know if
heard
you've
anything
given it enough
concrete.
time to function because of COVID, so.
Yeah, but I think that may make it appealing to someone too, if we make them a director, then that would be appealing, and then we raise the salary to 58,000, we hire a director, and maybe that'll get someone. I mean, I don't know, I mean, I don't wanna raise the salary and leave it as a supervisor, cause I think that's not parity with the other town employees.
Well, let's find out from CCM at our next meeting
Yeah,
and decide then. How about that?
fine with me.
That's a good first step.
Okay, so we'll table,
Table that one, okay.
Yep. I'm fine with that.
And we'll just wait.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. Next thing on our agenda is approval of, regular meeting minutes from March 17th.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 Motion passes. Motion to adjourn.
So, I'll make a motion, we adjourn?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Thank you.